the Navy and, even SOF, right? We used to say this about DEVGRU, like this command will take and take and take and take and take. So you have to like realize when it's time to go or, figure out how you separate.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Trace of Burnout. I'm Dan.
And I'm Roger.
Raj, we have had several Navy veterans on already in this young year.
Too many.
Not too many, but we've had on Marine/Navy SEAL. Mm-hmm. We've had pilots and hospital corpsmen that didn't spend too much time in hospitals.
Correct.
But this will be our first, we'll say crypto for short.
Yes, naval intelligence, crypto, not cryptid.
Not cryptid.
That's Yeti.
Miss Candace Esquivel. Candace, thank you so much for coming out of your way to be here with us this morning.
No, thank you for having me. Definitely still bouncing back and forth, but I really, really appreciate you guys welcoming me into your home and on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, disclaimer immediately is that for the viewer and for the listener, Candace's allergies are acting up. So it's not that she is overly emotional or anything. If you see her, wiping away the tears.
It can be both.
It's pollen season.
We're gonna blame it all on the pollen.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the pollen.
I'm not doing much better right now.
It's rough. It's rough.
Weaker genetic stock.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Weak genes. As somebody unencumbered by such allergies.
Yes, thank you,
Must be nice.
It is. It is. All right, so we'll get started the same way we always do.
Yeah.
Does your family have a history of service?
No, not really. So I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, or around Cleveland, in a little town called Twinsburg, which, pretty much no one that I knew in school or like immediate family went into the military. It was like you went to Kent State University, you went to Bowling Green University in Ohio, or like, Ohio State or something like that. So I didn't really have anyone that I was super close to that was in the military, really had no idea about anything military related. I have a great uncle who was actually in both the Army and the Navy in the 50s and into the 60s. And then he was medically retired out of the Navy. So he only did about 6 years. And he was a submariner. And he's the one that actually took me to the recruiting office. But he is the only person that has like military ties in my family. So it was a very big shock to my family when I was like, yeah, I'm going to the Navy. This is happening.
Did your great uncle talk to you about service at all? I mean, what led you to the recruiter?
Okay, so I'm very much, I just turned 40, so I consider myself like the 9/11 generation, right? I've always been into true crime and news and kind of current events. So, when 9/11 happened, I mean, so my family had taken a trip to New York City literally the month prior. So in August, we did this family vacation. I was maybe a freshman in high school, something like that. And the next month, 9/11 happened. So of course it was like shocking because it was like, we were just there.
Yeah.
And I remember I was homesick from school and my mom called and, was like, turn on the news. There's this plane that hit the World Trade Center. And that just became like what I watched all the time. So when the follow-on started to happen from that, where we started to, go into Iraq and Afghanistan, I was like glued to the TV, and, was like, wow, this is really interesting. I'm interested in it. I really was interested in intelligence and like investigations and things like that. So, military intelligence really excited me, I think, and really drew me in. And it seemed like a much clearer path for me to do than try to figure out college. I knew I wanted to kind of experience something bigger than Ohio. Twinsburg, I think our claim to fame is like the Twins Days festivals, which is the largest gathering of twins in the world.
That's not nothing.
Yeah, colloquially we call it the freak show, but
also true.
It's a little weird, but very quiet, like suburban town. And then, Cleveland, is Cleveland. So
have you seen the videos that were popular on the internet? I mean, these things were over 10 years ago, but it's the Good Times in Cleveland
yes,
again.
I love it. The tourism videos.
We can link those because there's at least two of them. They may have made a third one, but
they're so good. They're so funny.
My family's from Ohio. My dad's from Cleveland, so if you're from Ohio, it's total Cleveland humor.
Well, he's got to be a Browns fan, right?
Well,
does he cry?
He was until Art Modell stole the team and moved them to Baltimore. Then he gave up.
Oh, really? Yeah. No. Yeah, the rest of us are masochists. We're still Browns fans. But, so yeah, I just was like, this just seems like a path that I'd want to take, and I'm kind of a stubborn person, and once I make up my mind on like I'm doing this, then I was doing it. So I actually, he had talked to me about the Navy, and he had a good experience. I didn't really think the Army was for me. And, after doing 20 years, I'm like, the Army was definitely not for me.
It's an acquired taste.
Yeah, it's something. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But I love the Army, but it was just like, I probably made the right choice. But, at the time, I mean, more than, I'll just say it, I was like too scared to do anything else. So it was like, okay, the Navy recruiter was like great. I have a rare story where I had a really great recruiter that looked out for me. And I actually ended up joining DEP the summer before my senior year of high school. And then it took me some time to get in. I knew I wanted to be intel, so I had to my dad is from Mexico, so I had to wait for him to become a citizen. Then I was able to try and get my job. I had kidney stones, so I had to wait for that to go past. So I actually didn't leave for boot camp until a year after I graduated high school. So it was actually 19 when
That's
I
very
left.
delayed entry program.
Very delayed, yeah. I actually have separation papers from 2003 from when they had to kick me out of DEP for kidney stones. So
Jeez.
That made it into my file. But yeah, that's kind of why. And, again, I am just very hard-headed and stubborn. And when it's like, I'm going to do this, and I was going to do it. And we were going to see what happened.
Well, it's impressive that you had at least something resembling a plan going in. I don't think Dan and I didn't have that.
I had a plan knowing that I knew what I was going to do. I told the recruiter what I was going to do, and he was like, great, sign right here. So
yeah, I mean, there's so many disciplines in intel, of course, but I just was like intelligence, and cryptology is what they ended up giving me. And, they didn't know what it was and how to explain it. And, we do so many things in the Navy, so it was an adventure for sure. But I knew I wanted to be somewhere in that intel bubble. But I definitely thought I was going to be more like an all-sourcer at first. Yeah. So
now, you're going to eventually have to define these things.
Please stop me if I start spewing out acronyms, because sometimes I just start rambling. And
we've had plenty of people on who went into the recruiting office and they were looking to talk to one specific recruiter, and that person was out to lunch or told them they weren't good enough, or whatever, so they went next door or whatever. But you were just straight ahead with the Navy. Yeah. It was pretty much just straight ahead with the Navy.
Full speed ahead.
As they say, full speed ahead. I think they still say that, at least in boot camp. But yeah, it was. They were the most welcoming that were there. I don't even think the Air Force was there, but they had maybe one guy
playing golf.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not the first person to say that. No.
But yeah, they just happened to be there, and again, I lucked out. I had a really great recruiter and a really great recruiting experience. So it was a long time coming, but it worked out. And they really went to bat for me to make sure I had the job that I wanted. Because they kind of I had a couple different jobs that they tried to give me. So
you went to basic training when?
In July of 2005 in Chicago.
By that time they had moved consolidated everything at Great Lakes.
Yeah.
How well did you adjust to boot camp?
Not too bad. I always thought it was going to be harder. The only thing I did, my recruiter was because I was in band when I was in high school. I was a band nerd. Yeah, I know. Oh, I'm a huge nerd. And I loved marching band, so I did that all through high school.
All right, what instrument?
I played the clarinet for marching band, but then I played the oboe. I decided I was going to learn how to play the oboe one year. and I did that for concert bands.
I can promise you are the only oboe player that we have ever spoken to.
Who's
Really?
owned up to it? Don't let him judge you. He played viola when we were in school. So.
I played all the stringed instruments.
That's awesome.
Don't let him judge you.
That's awesome though. I know. And so my recruiter was like, tell them you play an instrument when you get to boot camp, because then you'll get put in a special division and they get like, it's a little bit easier.
That's what Shay told us too.
Yeah.
Another one of our Navy vets.
That's the only that's the only thing I remember from like that first night at boot camp is, because they're like giving you stuff, they're taking your clothes, they're cutting your hair, all the things, right? And the only thing I remember is like having my head down on a desk and someone coming around and asking if I played an instrument, and I'm like, yes, I play clarinet, and then like fell asleep and then went to my division, right? So I got to actually play my instrument in boot camp and like during the graduations, which was kind of cool.
And of course, you had to practice and stuff, so that got you out of other
got you
once
out of
a week
duties. Yeah,
very cool.
Very cool. It was cool. So, I adjusted pretty well. I made some really good friends there. I think I really came out of my shell a lot. I'm very shy. I know that kind of seems weird. I think people are a little surprised by that sometimes, but I am very shy. So it was a little bit of a culture shock coming in, and it really forced me to like grow into myself and kind of get out of my shell and out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I had a good experience there, and the food wasn't bad. I did a lot of marching because I was still in like an old building, so we had to march everywhere. So, I don't really have any like big complaints about boot camp. It was kind of like an easy-ish thing to go through.
Pretty cold depending on the time of the year.
Depending on the time of the year, for sure. I was there in the summer, so it was like late summer into fall. So it wasn't terrible, but I would not want to go there in the winter.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. No way. No way. Not with that snow. And my building was so old, we didn't even have air conditioning. So we would have to like arrange the windows, whatever pattern they told us to arrange the windows in. And I remember getting there and like clear taping my drawers because they were all rusted. So we all had to sit around in like our powwow and stencil our stuff and tape our drawers. And
some things never change.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
How long was boot camp?
At the time it was 6 weeks. It's actually longer now. And I actually just heard from a lady that graduated, I think like 2 weeks ago. And it's 8 weeks now, which I didn't realize. But it was 6 weeks at the time.
And then they sent you off to your advanced school.
They did, yeah. No
going home in between?
No, I actually kind of lucked out because I was in boot camp when Hurricane Katrina happened. So like my, A school or advanced training is in Pensacola, Florida, which that whole area got hit.
Gulf Coast.
Yeah, they got hit really hard. So we had a lot of people that ended up just hanging out in Great Lakes for months. I don't know how I picked the lucky number, but I was able to ship out right away and go to Pensacola. So I didn't go home in between, but I got the opportunity to go home like kind of once I was there and settled in, because it was a couple weeks before I like classed up for school and whatnot. And then I had a couple like follow-on schools. So I was in Pensacola for probably like 9 months going to schools.
So as a cryptologist, so please explain to the level that you can what a cryptologist is.
Oh boy, let's see. So the Navy has varieties of cryptologists. My specialty is known as cryptologic technician collection, which in my opinion, I feel like we're kind of the catch-all in the cryptology field. We do all kinds of things. So we do everything from like running collection equipment, which I did that the first probably 6.5, 7 years that I was in out at sea. We got very big into doing the SIGINT geospatial analysis. So
maps,
maps, phones, right? Maps, phones, computers, things, electronics. Got very heavy into doing that kind of work when I was in special operations. And then we'll also do like nodal analysis. So think of like mapping out your, Wi-Fi networks and things like that. So a variety of things, kind of depending on
it's a huge field.
It's a huge field. And for a while, I really thought that I would be like really into the signals analysis and like writing scripts to break out ones and zeros and, doing that. But I had other plans, apparently.
Dan is disappointed because he thought you were a cryptologist and we were going to be talking about Bigfoot all morning.
Well, the whole Bigfoot family.
Yes.
Do you believe in Bigfoot?
I think it's entirely possible.
Okay.
Possible, not likely.
There's a difference between possibility and probability.
Right. Correct.
So possible, yes. Probable, less so.
Yeah.
I think he's a demon. That's the running joke around here. Is everything is it's demons. Yeah.
Might be aliens,
Who were demons.
Again,
Yeah.
possible, probable, more so.
My family's been making fun of me because I'm like, it's the aliens. I believe in aliens. I think there's aliens out there. That's my conspiracy theory.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, did you take to cryptology?
I did. I really did. I like solving puzzles. I like solving like hard problems. So for me, it was very interesting. It wasn't always interesting. Operating collection equipment sometimes can get monotonous.
Very tedious.
Yeah, very tedious. And a lot of reading. You got to be a nerd. You got to keep up on all the technology that's going out there. And I've let those skills atrophy because I got into the policy kind of bubble.
Right.
But
how many of your classmates there at the A school thought they were going to be the next Alan Turing?
I will tell you, I did have a good recruiter, but when I asked them like, what does a cryptologist do? And she's like, do you know what Demi Moore does like in G.I. Jane before she goes to Buds? And I was like, I don't know if I've seen that movie, but I'll check it out, right? And she's like, it's like that. It's not like that.
It's not like that.
But that's what they told me. I was like, okay. So, but yeah, I'm sure those people are out there. We have a very interesting community, as I'm sure you all know.
Of nerds.
Of nerds, yeah.
Because it's so, you've got to be putting so much together. You've got to have the right mindset for it. You've got to constantly be reading all this stuff.
Yeah.
Was there a high attrition rate?
I wouldn't say there was a really higher attrition rate when I was going through. As you got into, because our A school is the basic signals analysis,
Yeah.
so that's what every CTR, no matter what, goes through. You then have an intermediate signals analyst course, which I did go through that, which is why I thought I was going to be, just breaking out signals. And then there's actually an advanced one, which is like, you're basically a coding, scripting genius. And I thought I was going to end up trying to do that. But it turns out I didn't want to be that nerdy. So, but
there are limits to the nerddom.
Yeah. So as you go up into like the intermediate and the advanced courses, you get higher attrition rates as it goes through.
Yeah.
But pretty much in the basic one, either you got recycled and go through. They really tried to work with you. So I don't remember there being like a high attrition rate for us.
But if you were having a hard time with it, they just push you back rather than saying, well, you're going to go be an engine man.
Yeah, we didn't really have a lot of people that got kicked out for things. The one thing I will say, and I told this to my recruiter had moved on, but I went back to my recruiting office like in between my A school and my first duty station. And they wanted me to talk. I did the HARP duty, right, for a few days in the recruiting station. And they
That would be the hometown recruiting program.
Yes, where they basically make you call everybody that you went to high school with to see if they want to join the military.
So you can tell them how awesome it is.
Exactly.
And by this time by that time it was fall to winter, so it's a great time to go to Great Lakes, guys. Really.
In January.
Not to mention I had been out of high school at this point for going on 3 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Because of your delayed.
Yeah, my delayed.
Extra delayed.
Exactly. So, but I did that, and they wanted me to talk to their DEP cohort, so I did, and we had a lot of like what we call undesignated seamen, and I don't know if the other services have a similar thing, but you basically go in without a rating and you get sent to a boat, or they have like undesignated airmen too, and they try to sell it as like you can go see every job that the Navy has to offer, and then you can pick the job you really like. And I'm like, please don't do that. Just pick a job because it's easier for you to get out of that job into a different one than trying to do this, because I'm like, they will, if you get in trouble, like we had a couple guys that had gotten in trouble when I was in A school, and they got their rate taken away and then sent to the fleet, undesignated. So I was like, they're giving this as a punishment. So don't sign up to do this. Yeah. Basically.
I think there's some benefit to that.
It could be.
Going you want to join the service, you want to get out of whatever situation you're in, or you want to serve, whatever the case is, but you don't really know anything about the military and you don't know what you want to do, rather than looking at cool guy videos online and saying, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Which of course is nothing like what you'd actually do.
Yeah.
I think there's a value to going in kind of blind and then kind of seeing a few things.
Yeah.
And
It gets hard because it's a hard life, right? Like you're at the bottom of the barrel. Like you're painting ships or, whatever. Like
peeling potatoes.
Yeah, peeling potatoes. It can be very challenging, and I don't really know what the statistics are like on it now, but I think one of the biggest issues that people ran into is that their chain of command wasn't supportive in like them choosing the job that they wanted and leaving, because that's a body down, right?
Yeah.
If I approve you to go strike, we call it striking a different rate, then I lose you. I lose that body.
Yeah.
So there was sometimes a give and a push and pull with that. So it could be, leadership dependent.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
But
So when did you finish up at your A school?
it was, when was it? It was late 2006, or maybe it was like May of 2006 or so, maybe in the summertime. And then
So your A school's pretty long.
Yeah, so I had the 4-month A school, and then I had another course after that I think was like 6 weeks or so to learn how to actually run the collection system that I was going to be working on. So it was our C school is what it was called. So it ended up being, I was there for a while.
So when did you get to your first unit?
It was probably about the summertime of 2006, and I picked San Diego, California, which is rough.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
Someone's got to do it in their early 20s, right?
Yeah.
And I had aunts out there, so it was great. And I originally actually wanted to do air crew when I was getting out of my initial school and basically operate collection equipment in planes. But those orders just weren't up for grabs. And so my instructor was like, hey, if that's something you want to do in the future, go to a boat, get your qualifications, advance, and then, your next round, you'll kind of have more leverage to kind of ask for, or, negotiate for what
Makes
you
sense.
want. Yeah. So I showed up to San Diego on a boat, on a cruiser. I was on the USS Bunker Hill, which actually decommed in 2024, I believe. And so there's probably 250 people on the ship, maybe 300. And it was a newly integrated ship with females. So there was me and like 2 other females that showed up at the same time. So it was a little bit of a culture shock for the ship. And then not so much for like us. I mean, I don't know. I feel like
It was everything was new to you.
yeah, so. Exactly. And I mean, I'm like, been around people like guys my age. So I think the CO of the ship kind of had I don't know what happened to him, but I think he had a really bad experience with, I don't know, maybe fraternization or sexual assault or simio or something while he was in command or something, where he was just very like hesitant to integrate. So It was like, if you're in mixed company, you have to have the door open. You have to have, mixed or odd numbers when you go out on liberty. And I'm like, there's like one woman that I can take on out with me. I mean, this is like, it just got to be very cumbersome. And then also like not realistic. I'm like, okay, I work in a skiff. The door's going to be closed because I'm the only female in here. So it was just weird. But, after a couple years, it was fine.
What was the nickname of the USS Bunker Hill?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't think we. It was something with a sword.
Or is the cruiser not a big enough ship to have a nickname?
I don't think handsome big enough ship to have a nickname. It's not like the Ike, you know what I mean, like the Eisenhower and the Ike. But I think we had like sort of the fleet, I want to say. I can't remember. I'm sure somebody from the Bunker Hill is probably listening to this. They were on it in like the 80s, and they're like,
"How dare you?"
Yeah. Aren't you in the Bunker Hill Facebook group?
So,
do you have the hat?
I don't.
Oh,
I don't. I have like an old name tape.
Okay.
From my like E4 days that says USS Bunker.
You have to
Hill.
go to the monthly pancake breakfast or whatever wearing your hat.
Yeah. Well, my great uncle has tons of them because they're all over the place. And like, how many hats do you need that say like Navy Submariner on it? But I guess the number is endless.
You mean he wasn't a submariner when he was in the Army?
No, he did not like the Army. He also was like, I got to get out of here.
Fair enough. It's an acquired taste, Dan.
it is. It surely is.
It was also, the height of the Korean War, right? So
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, were the other females that showed up with you, were they also cryptologists?
So one of them was, and I think she was she was an E5. So she was a little bit older than me, had been in the Navy a couple of years longer than me. The other female that was there was an undesignated seaman, and she ended up getting in trouble with another male boatswain's mate. And
these things happen.
Those things happen. And again, that CO just had a really bad experience, I guess, and actually sent them to the brig and put them on bread and water, which, was a thing back in the day.
Oh, that is perfect.
It's like master and commander stuff.
That
is everything that I think about the Navy. Right
Ratio
there.
of warm water.
Yes, bread and water. Can you imagine? Oh my goodness. The second ship I was on, we actually had a brig.
Were you guys actually at sea when this happened?
So I don't remember, because I think it was going on.
Because then he could have marooned them.
Oh, no. We weren't at sea.
Keel
we were at least we're on
hull.
deployment. Yeah. I think they got taken to whatever brig is in San Diego. But yeah, bread and water. I had a couple people in my career that got the bread and water treatment.
That is so amazing.
I love telling that though.
That warms my heart to hear that.
People are like,
We're not
really? That's a punishment? I'm like, well, not anymore, but it was.
Oh, they took it away.
We're not totally soft, at least not yet. Okay, we're halfway there.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
The Navy is a beast for sure. It's a beast, but yeah. So yeah, it was crazy.
So you were the junior cryptologist on the ship?
Yeah.
Or let me rephrase. You and the E5 that showed up were both cryptologists. On a ship of 250, 300 people, how many cryptologists are there?
So there's, as CTRs go, because then we also have CTMs, which was our maintainers. So they actually like fix the collection equipment that we break, which I apparently inherited that when I came into the Navy. I will break anything. So I'm like, how does this work? Oh, I broke it. Maintainer, come fix this. So we have like 2 to 3 maintainers.
Well, that equipment was made by the lowest bidder.
Yeah,
so.
Well, that's true. But I routinely still break stuff. But probably 10 altogether. And then we also have what used to be electronic warfare in the Navy. We used to be EWs, went to CTTTs, which is cryptologic technician technical. And they do more like electronic intelligence and things like that. So there was probably 8 of them, maybe 15 total, if I'm remembering everyone correctly. We were never 100% manned, so
of course.
There's that too.
Of
but yeah, probably about 10 to 15.
I imagine a lot of those technical positions are the maintenance are probably contractors now.
That's actually kind of a big debate going on.
Yeah.
Again, policy nerd, right? And I actually thought I was going to be spending the summer working on the Hill, but unfortunately that fell through. But the one big debate that Congress is kind of having right now is that it's called the right to repair is what the kind of buzz phrase is that they're using. And it's across all of the services. It's not just the Navy, but basically, we buy these equipment from defense contractors, and then service members can't fix it because it's proprietary data or, there's something in the contract that forbids them to do it. And then you got to pay the contractors to come out and fix whatever that causes maintenance delays and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I mean, it's a way to keep milking the cow.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is mind boggling to me that is still legal, but yeah. So I think for the maintainers, it's kind of a mix, but we do have dedicated CTMs, but they are a very like small rate. And I think really what we were trying to get away from over the course of my career, and we've ebbed and flowed, is like, do CTRs and CTs and CTMs need to be on the ship all of the time? Because even when you're in port, like that's where you show up to work every day, which I guess kind of blows people's minds sometimes, is like you show up to work and you're on a boat, and it's like that's
where the equipment's
that's
at.
where we work. Yeah, but when you're in port, we don't really have anything to like do on the ship except for like maintenance and random
and PT.
Yeah, PT maintenance, swab the deck as they say, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of went to this model where it was like, okay, well, we'll just do like direct support. So it was, you just go out you get detailed to a ship when they go underway or they're doing exercise or they go on deployment. And then they have like maybe maintenance centers, which would, hey, the ship's in port, they're having issues with the equipment, can you go over there and fix it type deal.
Yeah.
So it's ebbed and flowed, but yeah.
Where'd you go on your first float?
So I actually did a Western Pacific deployment. I got in trouble on my first deployment. I was a pretty bad junior sailor. But
you are the only person that's ever gotten in trouble.
I'm sure. No.
Wait, did they keel hole you?
No, they did not.
Did you get the brig?
I did not, and I did not get bread and water. But I was the most junior one that got in trouble, so they kind of like let me off the hook a little.
If you're gonna do it, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
It's my first float.
Yeah. I didn't think I was doing anything.
I'm sorry, officer. I didn't know I couldn't do that.
Well, now you know.
Well, there was like 5 of us, so it was like.
Do you want to tell us what you did?
Sure. I'll keep it brief because it was a whole big thing. But essentially, we pulled into Hawaii. We're starting our deployment. Hawaii is the first place you stop. Yeah. To like get supplies, because then you just go straight over to probably CENTCOM, most likely. So we pulled into Hawaii, and there was a new sailor that was coming on board. It was a female CTT, and I'm out with my other female CTT, the one person I can go on liberty with, right? We're driving around Hawaii and just doing whatever, and they called us, and they were like, hey, so-and-so checked on board. There's nothing here for her to do. Everybody's out. Would you mind, like, coming to take her out so she doesn't have to sit on the ship? Sure, no problem. Day goes on, whatever. Basically, a couple of the guy CTs in my division had a hotel room, and they were like, well, we're going to go out to a bar and get some drinks, and then, like, why don't you? I wasn't old enough to get into any bars in the States, so they were like, you guys can hang out in our hotel room, and we'll be back upstairs. Fine. So, fell asleep, wake up the next morning. Anyway, it gets back to my chain of command that we were all in a mixed gender hotel room. So it was like, that was strictly against the rules. And so we all went to Captain's Mast. But it was kind of funny because there's no record of that anywhere. And like, they didn't put it in any of my evaluations. Like I got, 15 days restriction, 15 days extra duty. And then I was on like Liberty Risk for the rest of the deployment. So I didn't really get to do a whole lot in some ports.
Yeah.
But
they got your attention.
I don't know about the Navy, but in the Army, you get the low grade Article 15, which is the 15 and 15 or 14 and 14.
Yeah.
That falls off your record after like 90 days.
Oh, it might have been something like that.
So yeah, now 45 and 45 will stay on, but
yeah. It was crazy because I did the whole thing. I went through Captain's Mast and all that, and it was funny actually because I always would like be on. I had to assess a couple times at commands, and so they put like, have you ever been in trouble? And I always tell the story. And I remember I had this one command sergeant major who was like, you're lying to me, you put this down and not this. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be deceitful. I'm like, there's just nothing in my record, and like I just want to be upfront about it.
Well,
like,
before we move on, Captain's Mast is what?
I guess we kind of do it a little bit differently than the rest of the services. Okay, so when you get like an Article 15 or get in trouble, what we do is you go through this like disciplinary process. So it starts with the chief's mess, which is E7 and above, on whatever command. and the command master chief will hold like what they call a disciplinary review board, so a DRB. Back then, it was mostly, they call it a fact-finding mission. Now I would say all of the chief's mess I've been involved in do treat it that way, but at the time, it was just for you to stand in there and get yelled at for doing something stupid.
Our findings are that we're going to scream at you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then just based on your answers and, you know, the questions they did ask, you know, then they would be like, okay, we're going to refer you to the next higher in the chain of command, which would be the executive officer. So then you would go to XOI, which was the executive officer's inquiry. They'd ask you questions. The chief's mess would recommend whatever punishment or non-punishment. And so then the XO would weigh in, recommend you go up to see the commanding officer or not. And you're all in your dress uniform for this whole shindig. Ours was on deployment, so I think we had them in like 2 days. So it was like the DRB, and then the next day it was like an hour of XOI, an hour of captain's mat. Like exhausting, right? Just getting yelled at for that long. But so then you do that, and then they can refer you up to a captain's mast. So that's where you go present in front of the commanding officer, and the commanding officer will review what you're charged with, you know, any statements you made, anything your chain of command has to say, either about like you as a sailor or the situation. And then the CO will give you your punishment, whatever that may be. So that's what captain's mast is.
So you took it all the way to the top.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Went to the top. Mm-hmm. Yes, I did.
So,
and I've been in DRB a lot. I mean, I don't know. I guess I didn't mean to, but I was like, I'm also very sarcastic. So it was like, this is stupid. Why are we doing this?
You're not
and then it would be like, you can't do that.
Are you a nervous laugher?
Yes, yeah, I am. Can you tell?
That's bad when you're in the military.
Yeah. Well, I'm also just very blunt. So it would, you know, and there was one time my chief was very weird, and you know, as we have weird CTs, clearly. But he was just an odd guy. And he was a SAR swimmer on the ship. And we had, you know, the visit board search and seizure teams, right? And they were just starting to like do the training cycle again. And I was like, that sounds cool. I want to do that. And he was like, no, absolutely not. You're not doing that. Like, no. Absolutely not doing it. Even though like half the CTs that had already transferred out, like the deployment before, they were like all on the VBSS team, but they kind of threw this like, you're a CT, you're not going to do this. And then I had my LPO who was like, if you want to do it, write a special request chit and like send it up. And a chit is like a form. So just, I don't know if you guys have heard that before. So we have our own language, but, you know, talked me up into like wrote this special request chit, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And then just chaos ensued. So it was like my work center supervisor, I think he got PT'd for a while because he put yes, that he would recommend me to do it, and then they had everybody else put no. I had to go all the way up to the commanding officer if they denied it. So it, you know, I had to make the CMC see it, I had to make the CO see it. And they eventually denied it. The CO said, no, she's not qualified in her primary workstation. And I knew that was BS because they let a guy that we showed up to the ship at the same time, and they let him do it. And I was like, okay, I see what happened here. But they sent me to DRB for that. And I just got crazy. I was like, you just brought me in here to yell at me.
And another thing.
Yeah. I told you that you couldn't do this. So he moved on, thankfully. That was we didn't have to deal the whole deployment with him.
So after your Hawaiian misadventures.
Yeah.
Where did you guys move on to?
So we went to Singapore, which I unfortunately did not get to see. So I had a movie marathon with my female CT buddy that got in trouble with me. And then we went to Oman, Muscat, Oman, which is actually still one of my favorite places that I've been to, because the MWR set up this tour for us, and it was like combination rock climbing, zip lining in this canyon. And I don't even know what the canyon was called. I couldn't point it out on a map or anything. we were driving on a highway for probably an hour and a half. He literally just like pulls off the side of the road, which it literally, there's no road or anything. It's just like, we're just going into the desert now. We're in
Taking
this like
a right turn into the desert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're in this like dried up riverbed for another probably 90 minutes. And then we, get to this like huge canyon rock area and hook us into these harnesses. And it was just so fun, like to, climb across and then, zip line across the canyon. And it was like more physically challenging than I thought it was going to be, but just like a great time. So we went there, and that was probably one of the best things that I did.
Did you feel like Indiana Jones while you're doing this?
No. No. I was just trying not to
Valley of the Kings.
Yeah, I was trying not to fall off the rocks and like embarrass myself.
First things first. Okay.
Yeah. You gotta look cool, right? That's the first
Rule
number one. Yeah. So then where did we go? That was kind of it. We were out to sea for a long time. We did the whole like Straits of Hormuz, and we were up there for a while. Went through the South China Sea, and then back to Hawaii. Oh no, we stopped in Guam, which Guam was a good time also, and that was the first port stop that I was like no longer in trouble for anything. So went out and had a good time, and then stopped in Hawaii, and then came home. So
when you guys are out there, you guys are not a solo ship. You guys are part of the fleet.
It depends. So
on that particular instance.
So we did solo steam on that ship. Yeah. Excuse me. So because that ship had defensive capabilities, they're able to go a little bit. They can solo steam
a little more autonomy.
Yeah. Where like the big decks, like your carriers or your amphibs, they don't really have as many defensive measures, so they need to have like a smaller boat.
Yeah. All the screening vessels are their defensive measures.
Exactly.
So when 250 and 300-ish sailors, and probably some Marines as well.
Not on this one. On this one.
Well, when you guys show up to Guam, was there...
I knew he was getting... I knew you were building to this.
Was there any worry about you guys tipping it over?
I knew he was building to this. I knew it.
I think that was before that rumor came out that it was going to tip over.
It's our show policy. We have to bring it up every time Guam is
so
mentioned.
It's hilarious because I didn't know about that phrase until 2022. And I was a legislative fellow, and like I hadn't really.
Hank Johnson.
Yes,
he's
and
still serving. Yes,
because they were talking about building up Guam and how they wanted to put all the defensive measures on Guam, and then we listened to it'll tip over.
Are you concerned? Not at this time.
Yeah, I think it's okay. We'll just put more cinder blocks underneath it. It'll be fun.
When you guys sail into ports, how long are you guys typically there for?
It really depends. It depends. Maybe like 3 to 4 days is probably typical. I had one port stop, and we weren't on deployment. It was like an exercise that we did, but we had just gotten back from deployment, and it was like one of those ports that like people just ran amok in, and a lot of like incidents happened.
Incidents.
Yes.
Yeah. I probably had the most eventful watch the one time, which was great. Luckily, I didn't get in any trouble, of course. But
of course.
This time.
But a lot of other people did, and but we were there because there was a storm, so we were there for like a week, and we couldn't go out to sea because whatever weather system was going on. So that was a little longer than we've been in ports, but. Yeah, I'd say like the 3 to 4 day range is probably pretty typical.
Enough to refuel, refit, and give you guys a break from...
Yeah, pretty much. And if there's anything else that has to be done, like sometimes,
Some maintenance maybe?
Yeah, things break, or they got to fly out some contractors to fix whatever or bring a part in. So it can depend, but yeah, it's probably 3 to 4 days.
How do I get a job where I'm an on-call contractor and I have to fly out to Hawaii on short notice?
I know a guy.
Fix something.
I know a guy. Yeah.
I don't want to actually work. I just want to goof off mostly. How do I get that job?
There's plenty of those.
Okay,
plenty of those.
So how long was your first float?
So that one was 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's typical, right?
They've gotten much longer.
Okay.
So my second one was 7 months. Carriers now, like, God bless those sailors, they're doing like 9 months off the bat.
That's a floating city. I mean,
It's crazy. I mean,
It's still a long time to be away from home.
yeah. And then, I mean, you know, because of current events, what is it? The Ford, I mean, they're looking at like almost a year out to sea.
That's a legit deployment.
Yeah. I mean, it's rough. I mean, my second deployment, you know, by the time we were coming back, it was like, you know, you have 2 dryers and washers that work. You have, you know, 1,500 people on this ship. You know, I'm sending my stuff through ship's laundry. I'm like breaking out all over because things are just disgusting. And it's like, I just want to like take a shower without flip-flops on and, you know, lay in my bed, like not, you know, shoulder to ceiling. And
it's the little things.
It's the little things. Yeah. So yeah, they get lengthy, but my first one was only 6 months. So it was pretty quick. Yeah.
Do you think you adjusted well?
Yeah, I think so. My first ship was like, we had, you know, our hiccups because I got in trouble, but like the camaraderie on small units like that, it was really good. So a lot of like longtime friends, even, you know, people that are either just retiring or still in the Navy. I mean, I don't know if you guys have to do this in other services, but we have to do something called cranking when we're E4 and below, and it's basically you go work in the cafeteria, you know, or the galley.
KP duty.
It's like KP.
KP,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So it's kind of like that, and you have to do, you know, you have to do it. So my last probably 3 months I was on deployment, I was working in the wardroom, which is like the officers' mess. And so would have to like serve meals and clean up and do dishes and stuff. Which
It's
is
very
not
different than the Army.
So many Navy stereotypes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Just coming flooding in.
Oh, but the
what? Captain's cabin boy.
Yes, I had to clean like the captain's stateroom. Like I had to do all of that. But the people that I was up there with were really awesome. So like I still talk to all of them to this day, and so it was fun in that respect. We had a lot of like, you know, stupid fun moments that we would do. So it was good camaraderie on the ship, and like, you know, I bounced back from being in trouble. I mean, I probably drove my leading petty officer crazy, because I was like always getting in trouble, but then I was like also good at my job and getting qualified and, you know, whatever. But
They have to grit their teeth.
yeah, they're like, why do you have to do this again? But people learn to appreciate it afterward, you know, after a while.
There's 2 ways to succeed. If you're going to continue to get in trouble in
Yeah.
the military, there's 2 ways to succeed. Be really good at PT
Yeah,
or be really good at your job.
exactly.
Those 2 things will overshadow a lot of other issues you might have.
Well, and you know, so we used to shine our boots, you know, back then, and we would get bored and do it on watch, you know, in the middle of the night, because I always had to stand like mid watches and stuff. And I remember I had an officer tell me, because I got mine like mirrors, like reflective, after, you know, 6 years of trying to do it on a ship. And I had an officer that was like, one day you'll get so good at your job that no one will care if you shine your boots anymore. And I was like, yeah, he's probably right. And then I kind of took off from there, and I stopped doing all that. So I kind of, it is like that, it's for sure. But
When you got back from that first float, was because I mean you're at that point you'd be what, 20, 21?
I turned 21 the week after we got back from deployment.
Boo.
It was great.
So
it was fantastic.
You're
yeah.
still
Yeah.
very young. Was getting back an adjustment? Because you're bouncing around to all these different places, doing all these different things. Completely new to you from Twinsburg, you know. So was getting back from all that an adjustment? Like, oh, now I'm back
It was,
here.
but you know, like that deployment didn't really seem like, it wasn't like my later deployments. You know what I mean? Because I was cranking for some of it, so I wasn't even doing like really operational stuff. I mean, I had to do some things like underway replenishment, right? Like getting gas at sea. You know, we'd have to go out there and like pull a line from ship all the way across the ocean to the other ship, right? So I was doing things like that. But I had like really good relationships on board and like good friends that it was like, hey, we're just having a good time, you know, I'm getting to see these places, it's fun, you know. Really the focus, I feel like, in that kind of current event area was, you know, Afghanistan and Iraq. I mean, it was, you know, 2006 into 2007, so I never really felt like I was in danger or like unsafe necessarily. Definitely not with what is, you know, happening with ships out to sea now. So it just kind of felt like, hey, I just had this great experience. I'm glad that I'm home, so I don't have to keep cranking, and I can like take a real shower and be clean.
No more flip flops.
Yeah, no more flip flops. But you know, I was turning 21 in San Diego, California, so I was like happy to be back, and you know, I really loved where I was living, and it wasn't hard to adjust kind of after that. And you know, we had like our core group of, you know, young nothings
Yep.
that kind of lived in the barracks, and you know, we'd hang out.
Question for Dan: where did you spend your 21st birthday?
Yeah. Do you remember your 21st birthday?
I do.
I do too.
I was showing up to day 0 of air assault school the very next day. So
yeah, that's no fun.
I was
Yeah.
my team leader and the rest of my team went out to Applebee's because it's upstate New York and there's really nothing else. And he was like, "You can have one beer, and then I'm taking you back to the barracks and locking you down." He was like, "You will not fail this school." Like, yay.
Yeah.
I was on a night land navigation course in Fort Jackson in South Carolina, and just
yeah.
pouring rain with my little red lens flashlight, looking at my map that's in the Ziploc bags, questioning my life choices.
Yeah. My 21st birthday was great. My 30th birthday, I was in a conference room doing op board planning until about 1 a.m. And the guys felt bad for me because I spent my 30th birthday at work with them. So they did send me home with a bottle of tequila, which was nice, but that's at least where I spent my 30th. So
Nice.
don't feel too bad.
By my 22nd birthday, I was in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a late one to Afghanistan, for sure.
How much during that float,
Mm-hmm.
during that first one, how much support were you doing to the GWAT? Because I mean, it's 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
Things are still going pretty.
Fear and
pretty
Oman.
heavy.
They were hot and heavy. You know, it was hard to explain. Like I know I rubbed some people the wrong way when I would say this later, but like I didn't feel like I was attached to it, you know, and when we were out there, like, because, you know, we have these cryptologic resource coordinators. So they basically are the higher ups for us, like take on, you know, tactical operation or control. Sorry, I'm not an officer. Bad at PME. But so they would tell us, hey, we want you guys to focus on like this collection platform, use, you know, these metrics, and this is what we want you to go out there and do. And, you know, it would just get shoveled up and like, yep, looks good, and kind of pass it on. So it felt very passive in what we were doing. You know, I know that contributes to like the larger mission and operational picture and, you know, strategic kind of assets, but at the time it felt very detached. I didn't feel like I really knew what was like that. I was really tied into GWAT. It just kind of felt like, you know, I'm out here patrolling because they said we had to be out here patrolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you give a be a little bit more specific, like what platform you were collecting things on, and you know, the whole way up the chain?
Let's see. I try to break this down as easy. So we had our platform that we had on the ship. So it's called Increment Echo. So that's what we had on the ship at the time, and they would give you like signals of interest that whatever target you happen to be looking at the time might be using, or
A person, place, or thing.
exactly, yeah. Person, place, or thing. So that's what we were collecting out there. But again, there wasn't a lot of like analysis of like what is in this intercept, like what am I looking at. It was just making sure like it was a clean collect, a clean signal, and then, you know, it would get sucked up into the databases that it goes into, right?
Off into the ether.
Yeah.
So you would be for example, you would be collecting information on terrorist A from Kandahar, and anything that came through wireless, communications, or even human intelligence.
We didn't
like that.
we didn't do anything on human.
But,
totally
but
separate.
all this, all the information that's coming in about that person, place, or thing, you guys are putting it all together.
This was more like Iran looking.
Well,
that we were.
Just for example.
Yeah, no, this is more like, at the time anyway, it was more like, what is your naval posture? What are these air assets doing? More like that. We weren't putting together like target packages to be like, here, go action this thing.
Yeah.
It was more the like gathering intel on naval postures.
Order battles.
Order of battles.
So that bigger and more important people can make the decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like at the time. And, I wish I guess, I was a young 20-year-old though, but like wish I would have kind of been more aware maybe of what the like larger context was, but it just kind of wasn't anything that we were concerned about. It was like, does this particular file work on this system? Is the system operating correctly, or it's overheating? How do we fix this type thing? So it was very like tactical level on the boat.
Okay. We'll take a break here in a second, but
Okay.
You're doing all that stuff while you're at sea.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing when you return?
From import?
Yeah.
A lot of training. So we would go to courses and do, advanced training. And usually that was for like a workup for a deployment.
Yep.
We would also go to like our leadership training. It's evolved since that time, but there's like certain schools you have to hit before you're eligible for rank. So we would do that. If there was maintenance on the system, we could help with that. Or, our CTTs had a lot of maintenance. So usually we'd end up just kind of helping do that kind of stuff around the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine it's similar to us when you get back from a deployment. You have your
Your
leave period,
Yeah.
and then you come back into we have color cycles and stuff. But your individual training, and then your collective training, and then that's when you're really getting ready to ramp up for the next thing.
all your recertifications.
And maintaining the ship, right?
Yeah,
Painting, non-skid, right?
So much paint.
So much paint.
have the bread and water crew to that. All right, let's take a break,
Okay.
and then we'll come back to it. So you're back from your first float, back in San Diego. You've turned 21. You're keeping your nose clean. You're doing all your
So
research.
she says.
Yeah. You're not busy painting the ship. You're doing all your professional development and recertifications and stuff like that. How long is it before your next tour?
Years.
Years.
Yeah.
How long was your original enlistment?
So my original enlistment was 4 years.
Okay.
And that covered my whole first duty station. But when we got back, we had a couple exercises to do and, just random like underways. So did those, but then we went into an extended yard period. And at the time we were going through something called cruiser modernization. So they were taking the cruiser class of Navy ships and upgrading them and, new weapon systems, new all the things. So that was going to be a year. So for 1 year of my life, I reported to the BAE shipyards in San Diego, which is a construction site, basically. So we would go there and, did that for a year. And that's kind of random stuff. So I started taking college classes to go through time, more school and stuff like that. But it was being in the yards and things like that, because it's a lot of escort duty. You can't have random contractors or construction folks in the space. So we would mostly spend the days escorting contractors and doing whatever in the space.
Per the tradition, the local tradition in San Diego, they take the cruisers and put them on cinder blocks.
Yeah, it's insane, actually. Yeah. It's actually really cool to be underneath the ship while it's in dry dock and just see how they do it. It's
scrape
amazing.
Off the barnacles.
Yeah, I'm not doing that, but
that doesn't sound
it looks
like
cool.
When something like that happens, when they're
Doing maintenance or
doing maintenance or
the ship.
upgrading the ship.
Yeah.
Words.
Yeah.
Do all the people stay assigned to that vessel, knowing that it's going to be down for a year, or do they like leave a skeleton crew and say you guys can go be
Elsewhere.
of better use somewhere else?
So they've definitely, I think, have tried to stop doing that, like keeping people in maintenance periods for a long time. Now that's challenging because certain rates got to be there for the maintenance period because they're upgrading equipment and they need to be there for that. You know, at the time, no, we stayed detailed to the ship, you know, so we didn't work on board because on board was literally like a hazardous construction zone.
Everything's being ripped apart.
Yeah, like hard hat, everything. So we worked on a barge, which is like just a floating office space basically with some berthings in it and stuff. So that's like where we went to work and ate and things like that. But through the years, what has happened is, you know, junior sailors that are coming in, you know, they get trained up on these highly technical things, or they spend, you know, a year plus sometimes in their advanced training if they have like, you know, nuclear nukes, for example. And then they get to their boat and it's like, oh, sorry, your first 2 years in the Navy are going to be on this construction zone and not doing the job that you enlisted for, and not, you know, getting to go to get on deployment and like get that operational, you know, experience. And that, I think, really took a toll on mental health for sailors and
retention.
And retention. Yeah, absolutely retention. And then just knowledge when they eventually did go out. So
yeah, I mean, you're training up for a year or 2 years, and then you're spending a year or 2 years not doing like you said, escorting.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to lose all of that.
Yeah. And you know, ships in the fleet also need personnel. So I think the Navy has tried to be better about. I think they made a policy. I can't remember when it was, but your first tour can't be to a ship that's in the yards. You know, you have to go to like an operational thing. And I don't know if they've worked that out or what jobs they've worked that out with, because some jobs are more sea intensive than others. But, you know, they've definitely recognized that like those long maintenance periods really like drives down your force.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect comparison, but I think back to the GWAT when in the Army we were standing up the 4th Brigade combat teams in all the divisions. So we're basically building these, you know, brigade level elements by pulling from other units and then filling them with all the new people showing up. And I never showed up to, you know, I never served in one of those 4th BCTs, but I can't imagine it would have been fun for that first year or so as everything's being cobbled together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So we have like pre-com ships. So that's ships that, you know, are not operationally like active yet. They haven't been commissioned to go out to sea. And people do get detailed to pre-coms. And for a lot of people, it's a little bit different than being in the yard period, because you are building the command. So I think some people really like that, but it can be very like, okay, well, I spent my first, you know, tour in the Navy. Some people like going to pre-coms because it's a little bit of a break. If you've been out to sea for a while, you know, you can you're still kind of at sea and you're doing, you know, your job and getting the ship ready to go out to sea, but it's not quite the same as like showing up to a construction shipyard.
Like turnkey.
Right. Yeah.
So your job is in a skiff. Mm-hmm. They just built a new skiff on a barge somewhere and 3
No, we didn't have it. I mean, there's really nothing for CTs to do in port, right? Or at least for the CTRs, our CTT brethrens, the technical folks, like they had maintenance all the time. So we were always having to help them do maintenance on their weapon systems and radars and, you know, painting the deck. I've painted the decks so many times. It turned into more monotonous things like that during the yards, which made it like harder to want to like, okay, is this going to be over soon?
So then why did you decide to re-enlist?
Well, so if you remember, I wanted to be aircrew coming out of A school. And, you know, I was really into PTing. I had this really crusty old warrant officer that was my SIGWO at the time. And he was, you know, super badass and would PT us all the time. So we, you know, got to be in really good shape. And, I wanted to do something like VBSS, and that got shot down. I really wanted to get involved or feel more involved in like the GWAT kind of era. I was really interested in naval special warfare and whatnot, and what the Navy was doing, and I'm sure all the services were doing it, but that was really hot and heavy during our IA time. So the individual augmentee assignments were coming out like crazy. So like we actually had one female that was in my division. The year that we were in the maintenance period, she actually was on an individual augmentee, and then she came back to the ship after the yard period when her time was over. So I knew that those opportunities were out there. When I went to go negotiate with my detailer, which is like who assigns us our positions, and let me know if I'm like that. I don't want to insult your intelligence.
No. I think it's funny that you use the word negotiate.
Yes. My last detailer actually called me a terrorist. And I was like, I am trying to be sincere.
That means you did your job right.
Yeah. Well, I've never had like a traditional detailing negotiation like window process in the Navy, because my first two circumstances, my first two was like really just by luck. So like coming out of my initial training, they had this deal where if you were the honor grad, you got first pick of orders based off of whatever they had available. Yeah. So I got honor grad, so I, picked the ship. And then, so that kind of worked out, and where I just was like, I want to do this. And then going into this one, again, all those reasons I wanted to kind of do something a little bit more operationally, like, I don't know, tactical and involved in current events.
Yeah.
And, they had an IA billet in Iraq, and it was going to be a year. And I wasn't really sure if I was going to continue to stay in, but I was like, well, I at least want to do this, right? Like, I want to experience this, at least.
Feel a bit more involved.
Right. And that's what I wasn't watching ships out at sea when I was watching the news. So it's kind of weird that I ended up in the Navy, I guess. But, so I opted to do this individual augmentee. My detailer was like, easy day, we'll get you to do that. And, there's a whole kind of workup medical process that you have to go through, deployment checklist, right, to make sure that you can physically and get ready to deploy. So I started going through that process, and I'm like, hey, still need my orders. Like, I'm not getting anything. And it got to the point where it was like, I'm supposed to leave in like 60 days. And I was an E5 at the time. I was an E5. And so, go to my command master chief, and I'm like, hey, I haven't heard anything from my detailer. I don't have any orders. Like, I can't go any further in this process until I get that. And I'm just not hearing from him. So, she got involved, and she was pretty much like told however he fell out, he just dropped the ball. So she was like, you're going to give her whatever she wants. Like, she's going to just pick it. You give her whatever's available, and then she's going to pick whatever she wants. And so that's what happened the second time. And I was really interested in, being like a real signals nerd. So I wanted to go to intermediate signals analysis. I wanted to stay in San Diego. And so I picked another ship because I'm a masochist, apparently. So I went to the USS Boxer after that. So that's how those orders happened. It wasn't even a negotiation. It was just like, I'm about to leave and I have no orders, and my CMC got involved and was like, here's the list. You have like 2 days to pick what you want, basically.
You are not the first Boxer veteran we've had on the show.
No? Oh. I have to look up who you've had before.
Teresa Carpenter.
Oh, that name sounds... I know Teresa from LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. I wonder if we were there at the same time. I don't know if I've ever...
I don't remember when
she was
there. I just remember that she was.
Yeah, no, we've been connected on LinkedIn for a while, yeah.
She's good people.
Yeah. Yeah, she's... I haven't listened to her podcast yet, but she's always... Yeah, she's out there. She's definitely one of the big voices that's in my algorithm. I did not know that, though.
So you forfeited the IA duty?
It got canceled. It got canceled. Yeah.
So the detailer dropped the ball.
Right.
You lost that assignment.
Right.
And so
it was like, all right, I want this school then, and I want to stay in San Diego, and so they made that happen.
Nice.
the issue that happened is that, so that all went great. I had a school in between there, the intermediate school. So that was 4 months. So that was 4 months back in Pensacola, Florida, which was much better as like a fleet returnee E5, with a car too.
Yep.
When you went to the intermediate school, were you at pretty much on pace with the rest of your peers, that they were all heading to that school around that same time, or because you were able to choose that you wanted that school, were you kind of getting ahead of them?
Rank wise, we were pretty on par. CTR advancement, particularly in that time from E4 to E6 was like pretty high, because a lot of people would, they'd only stay in for a little bit and they'd be like, I can make a lot more on the outside. And so it was almost 100% advancement. All you had to do was like pass the advancement exam. And so I was on par with my peers as far as like rank goes, but the intermediate and like advanced kind of pipeline isn't as common. So I wouldn't say that I have a lot of peers that were in that class with me. Of course, I've met people like in the class that continue to do stuff like that throughout the Navy. But as far as just holistically, I don't think a lot of people go to the intermediate course. So
okay,
yeah.
What kind of ship is the Boxer?
So that's an amphibious ship, used to carry Marines for amphibious landings. So we had Marines embarked at one point, and when I got there, we were in another maintenance period. So I timed that really well, of course. So did that for a while. That's another reason it took so long, So I was in the maintenance yards for a year, and then, basically another year to like PCS, go to school, come back to the maintenance period. But then I went on deployment in 2011, in March of 2011. So it was basically like almost 4 years between my first two deployments.
This deployment was to where?
Same place. Western Pacific.
Western Pac.
Yeah, Westpac. We did a little bit different port stops this time. So there was a lot of current events that were happening during that time. So what was it? Is it Fukushima? Yeah. So that happened.
The Japanese nuclear reactor?
Yep. Yeah. That ended up, I don't know, what's the right term for that? English? Leaked radiation from the tsunami. So we thought initially we were going to do that, to do humanitarian relief. Thankfully we did not. I can't remember what ship was out there that did that, but I know they had the sailors that have come back from that deployment over the years, I think they've had an increase in like cancers and other medical issues. So we didn't do that, but we did the same like first port in Hawaii. I stayed out of trouble. I was very good this deployment.
This time.
So she said.
This time. I did get in trouble a little bit later, but I don't really consider that being in trouble. We'll talk about that. But so did the Hawaii, and then we pulled into.
Is that Pearl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful base. I'm like,
love it.
I would love to live here, but it's just so expensive.
It's fun to visit. Living there is not.
Yeah. I don't know. People are like, you get so relaxed though, and I guess I'm just not used to that. But yeah, we stopped there, and then we went to Oman again, but we went to Salalah, Oman, I think is how it's pronounced.
Say that 3 times fast.
Salalah, yeah. It's literally like Salaah or something like that. So super boring port. There's really nothing there, and there's about 4 places they would let us go. So it was like, you can go to, I forget what the store was called, but it was like their version of Target, right? Like kind of had a food court and, stuff if you needed to buy anything, and then like 2 hotels. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll just go do that and we'll see the rest of the ship while we're out. But did that, and then we were out to sea for probably 2 months straight. And I actually started that deployment on a different ship. I went over to the USS Green Bay because I was training their CTs on their equipment. So I did a little training with them the first like couple weeks that we were on deployment before I came over. So did the Salalah Oman, no real cool like MWR tours out of there. Out to sea for a long time, pulled back into Salalah Oman. I just stayed on the pier that time because I was like, there's shawarma and beer. I'm fine here. It's pretty much all I'm going to get out in town. So did that. And then we went to Hong Kong, surprisingly, which was actually really cool.
Party city.
Would love to go back to Hong Kong. Yeah. Stayed in a really nice hotel and, you know, just walked around. It was a great city. We went to Thailand also, which was a lot of fun.
Did you get outside of Bangkok?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even go into Bangkok. It was funny you say that because it was me and my friend who worked in admin, and me and her were like, okay, everybody's going to Bangkok. We're going to go the complete opposite direction. And
The country's better.
Yeah. Oh, it was so nice. It was beautiful. And we got this amazing, like, luxurious hotel. You know, we each got our own room. It was super cheap. It was great. So that was awesome. And then when I got back, I had already put in a package to go screen for Naval Special Warfare Development Group. So I pretty much just came back and jumped right into that. But that deployment set me up pretty nicely for that transition. So
was there a assessment and selection type process for you to join in? So what can you tell us?
It's evolved over the years, you know, as leadership's changed and whatnot. So, there was a whole packet I had to fill out. And I don't think I had an essay on that one. I can't remember, but, you'll fill out the package. They called me back and they were like, yes, absolutely. You know, we want you to come screen on these days. I had a division officer who was my boss, and he was prior enlisted, and he was a prior TAC EW, so I'm going to get my SOT A's and B's mixed up, but I don't know. Something like that equivalent. My joint lingo is like escaping me, but so he had done that, and he was one of the ones that like really pushed me to like get out of my comfort zone and do that. Because by this point I had been on ships for like 6.5 years. So it was like, I got this, like, you know, I know what to do. And it was pretty monotonous after a while. And I had made E6, thankfully. And I was only like 5.5 years into the Navy at this point. So I originally thought I was going to put in an officer's package. I wanted to do the Navy program, the Seaman to Admiral pipeline. So, you know, you go finish college for a few years and then commission. But I had all that package ready to go. I was going to start doing the interviews, and he was like, I think you should go to DEVGRU. He's like, because you might not ever have the opportunity to do this ever again.
And what is that?
Go to DEVGRU. Like, just go to the command.
What is?
Oh, I'm sorry, Naval Special Warfare Development Group. Yeah, to enter like the special operations, you know, community. He was like, you know, you're young, you have a lot of time, but like this opportunity is presenting itself now, and
it may not happen again.
Yeah, it may not happen again. He's like, you have your whole career to be an officer. You can drop a commissioning package every year, but you may not ever be able to like have a spot to get to go. So I was like, yep, sounds good to me. Mine's made up. I'm gonna go. So I came back and screened, and it was a week long. It was 5 days, and another culture shock for me. I really didn't know what to expect. Like I felt like I had a really good grasp on the Navy and, you know, my position as an E6 and as a CTR, and what ship life was like, and, you know, being on deployment and stuff, and, you know, the sailor of the quarter boards, and, you know, my military bearing. Like, I was a fleet sailor at the time. And so it was a bit of a culture shock to show up to, like, that kind of command and not really know what to expect. And it being so totally opposite from just kind of how the Navy was functioning at the time, or my experience anyway with the Navy.
Everybody's wearing cargo shorts.
Yeah. And like, I told this story to a friend of mine last week that I had seen. Me and her were at the command together for a long time. And I was like, I remember them telling me in the directions, you have to wear business casual clothes, right? Or bring a set of business casual clothes. And I had started weightlifting on deployment because I started doing jiu-jitsu with the Marine Corps. And so I was like, I'm getting beat up. I was like 110 pounds, right? So I'm like, they're just tossing me around like a rag doll. I'm going to start lifting some weights. So, my Divo would come and do jujitsu with us. And so I'd gained like 30 pounds of muscle. Like I just got jacked on deployment. So like nothing fits me. So my mom came to see me and like went out and bought all new clothes because I'm like, my uniform's tight. I'm like bulging out of my, khaki top and all of this. So I remember they had us go to like a social, and it was at a dive bar, of course, Awful Arthur's, which I don't think is around anymore, in Virginia Beach. And I was in there in like, my work trousers and like dress shirt, and everybody's in, like flip-flops and cargo shorts and t-shirts. And I'm like, I feel so awkward being in here, like so out of place, so like, what is happening? And, but I remember them saying like, well, you were the only one that like dressed up when we told you business casual, and like treated it like an interview, I guess, and like a formal interview.
They noticed.
Yeah.
They
so
noticed.
It was interesting, but I definitely was like, this is a new atmosphere for me.
So you're on the East Coast now too.
Yeah. Well, I was used to San Diego,
Yeah.
So
what are some of the other things involved in the screening?
Yeah. So there was right off the bat, made you take a PT test, right? And the one thing my Divo did before he would sign my screening package is he was like, I will not sign your screening package until you can do at least 10 pull-ups. So I was like, okay, we can make that happen. So we were real into like doing challenges with each other, like just like the division. And just like, how long can you stand in the front leaning rest? Who has the record? Like, you get bored underway, right?
You'll be happy. The front leaning rest, not restful.
Not restful. Actually terrible. But my personal best is 15 minutes. So
Wow.
I'll take that. But yeah, so, did all that. And he was like, you don't know what they're going to throw at you. You don't know what they're going to have you do. So like, at least knock the PT out of the park. So I knew I was going to have to do that. So did a PT test. Typically they make you do a swim test. I think the pool was like out of commission when I screened. They do that. And then there's, psych testing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you actually,
So
the bubble takes so much psych testing. That alone was like, I'm spent mentally. A psych interview, which he actually really appreciated that I played 2 instruments and really encouraged me to get back into it, and I never did. But he was great. And then there was a peer board. So I had to, we stood in front of the entire department, not the entire department, but a lot of people from the department. They would just fire off questions, try to get to know you better. And I remember thinking that I like completely crashed and burned, because they probably are supposed to make you feel that way, but
it's a thing.
I was, because I'm used to like sail over the quarter boards, and that would freak me out, right? I was, again, shy. I was a shy person, and so I thought it was going to be kind of like that, and I'm, nobody has any rank on or anything, so that kind of, that threw me off. And they're asking me about, questions and how do I feel about my chief and how about this, and it ended up being okay at the end, but did that. And then they had me do a brief on a current event, and at that point in time Osama bin Laden had been killed. There was Anwar al-Awlaki had been killed, so there was a lot of rhetoric in the news about that bombing and him being a U.S. or a dual U.S. citizen, or whatever. So there's a lot going on in like the GWAT space. And so I did a current events brief, and that actually went pretty well. I think I was probably talking really fast and sweating, but got through that. And then a lot more PT, and then like a final command board. And that was kind of it.
How many other people were screening for the same position?
For the same position, I don't think there was any other CTs that I can remember. There was a few all-source intel analysts. That was primarily like the bulk of the N2 department was all-source analysts. And there was a much smaller number of CTs that worked at the command in that department. So I don't remember anyone specifically in the CTs. It was mostly all-sourcers, and then JOs, junior officers, screening for like intel officer positions throughout the command. So I I don't remember there being any CTs that I was screening with. I remember the CTs in the room because they made me pick out which one I thought was going to be the CT, and I crashed and burned on that one. But yeah, there wasn't many that was screening with me.
Okay. And then after that 5 days, turned around and flew right back to San Diego?
Yeah. And then I went on leave from my deployment because I basically came home I was sharing an apartment with a friend of mine. We were, moving into a new place as roommates. So I had no mattress, no bed, no dresser, just a suitcase and my deployment stuff because I had gotten rid of everything before I went on deployment. And so it was pretty much just trying to be an adult.
How long did you have to wait to find out the results?
It was only a few months. So I waited a few months and unfortunately, so on the tail end of that deployment, the other thing that happened was Extortion 17. So we kind of had all these big events that happened that involved a lot of those same people. So it was a little bit probably longer maybe than it normally was. And I think more towards the end of my time there, I think we started to let people know as they were leaving. But it was only a couple months, I think, maybe a couple even weeks. I don't remember specifically, but it was a while before I left. And that was because I screened in November of 2011, and I didn't actually leave to go to the command until the next year, December 2012.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And part of that was because of just the orders process in general. But then I had asked to be extended on board for a few months because we had our yearly E6 evaluation cycles. So, my chief at the time and my divo were if they can swing it, see if they can let you stay so you can get a ranked evaluation amongst all your peers on the boat. And then hopefully that will set you better to make chief, E7 for my next year because I was up for chief the next year. So I was okay, I'll see what they say. And
paper's good paper.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna say no to that. And they were totally fine with it. So that's why it ended up being a little bit longer. But I did make chief the next year, so it ended up being sound advice.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you showed up back in Virginia.
Back in Virginia Beach. Yep.
In you said December 2012.
Late 12. Yeah.
Yep. Early December 2012. Mm-hmm.
Much different than being on a ship.
Oh, it's totally different. Yeah. And again, I never was really sure how long I was going to stay in the Navy. I kind of felt like this ship thing, I kind of been there, done that after 6.5 years out to sea, where it was this isn't enough for me. I need to do something else. Yeah. So, I wasn't sure how long I would really be in. For me to go to DEVGRU, I needed to sign on for 4 years. I had to do at least 4 years there. So I knew I would at least do that. And yeah, showed up and it was totally different. I felt reinvigorated, motivated again to
a new challenge.
All right, I'm in. Yeah, it's a new challenge. It's something I'm totally, I have no idea, it's just been literally something I watched on the news from 2001 to now I'm in 2012 and it's okay, this is now going to be the opportunity that I get to do this.
Well, on the Army Special Operations side, there's a saying that you're always being evaluated.
Yeah.
So I know that the other services are like that too. And most people I can speak for the Army side, take that as a personal challenge to do better each and every day. Mm-hmm. That could be, crushing for some people. We're always being evaluated. But, take that opportunity to sharpen yourself each and every day, right?
Yeah. And ask for feedback, right? Hey, how did that go? What do you think? And I mean, I still do that to this day after briefs. Because I've had to brief a couple of times since I've been out and it's always was that okay? And maybe that's a little anxiety too, which is not great, but there's a little bit that was okay, right? That sounded okay. I got my point across. I'll probably do the same thing after this podcast. So
we'll cover it in the hot wash.
Yeah, please. Let me down gently, though, please.
Did you have any difficulty adjusting to? Because I mean, you're not with the fleet anymore.
Yeah,
you're not in dry dock.
Yeah, it was definitely an experience. I I was really nervous. I remember showing up really excited, but like nervous because I really felt out of my element. I didn't really felt like I kind of like fit the culture in Virginia Beach, and like I just like felt like I was in San Diego. I'm like that's what I had like my formative 20s in. So it was a little weird to be on the East Coast and just be around the East Coast again, and then also this huge change in command. And I wouldn't say that like what was hard for me was like I had to be careful about like I didn't want to give anybody the wrong impression that I wasn't a team player, but there was some things where it was like this is a Navy thing, and like I know that I know this more than you, right? Like, so it was this kind of weird thing of like, all right, how do I fit in here? And again, I had really great peers in my training class with me because, we went through this kind of initial training cohort. And, it's evolved, of course, again, throughout the years. But, it was like 4 of us. We became really close. One of the guys actually was also from Ohio, the Cleveland area, and we made chief at the same time. So, me and him were really tight. And so we kind of would like go back and forth of like, all right, they're kind of making us play these like reindeer games, like we'd have to go to parties and get like the right plastic cup color to match the squadron, like just ridiculous things, right?
It's like a scavenger hunt.
Exactly. It is. And I look back at those now and it's like good times and good memories, but at the time it was like, what are we doing? But you just kind of laugh it off and kind of take it as you go. But it was definitely a culture shock. I think that was really where I started to feel like I was like, I don't want to say in the military because that probably doesn't sound right, but had, okay, this doesn't fit me. Like this, my plate carrier doesn't fit me and it hurts and you're making me run around and do all these things. And like, I got to drive the Zodiac boat now. And like, oh, you don't have any dry suits that fit me. So it became very apparent that like, okay, this is going to be a little bit of a struggle. I actually just sent my friend, I had to go to a combat support class and, so most of that was just like really weapons handling. And I'm the perfect height for whoever was standing next to me, where every like round that got expelled from his rifle would hit my neck. So I had all these like X burns just all over my neck. Yeah. And I have a friend that actually designs female fit like tactical uniforms and stuff. And she was like, if you could do something about this neck problem, that would be great because whatever they gave me did not work. Yeah. So that was a bit of a culture shock. And then I really like dove right into just working. Like I would come in on Sundays and, check my emails and, we were on a training team. So it was like, they really wanted to get in how serious the mission was and how important it was to like be accurate and what they were looking for and like the kinds of things that we needed to be looking for and doing as intel analysts and signators. So it was a lot of learning, a lot of public speaking that I wasn't really used to doing. I briefed, all of us, we briefed like every single week. So I appreciate though that time because again I think that was like another pivotal moment in my career where I really like grew as a professional and like way out of my comfort zone. And then I really found it interesting. I mean, manhunting. How can you not find that interesting?
Looking for dirt bags.
Exactly.
How long do you think it took you to really feel like, hey, I got this?
I don't feel like I ever did. I don't know. I'm sure that's common, right? I guess there really is kind of a point where I got to be like, I've gone as far as I can go in this community and I'm ready for a change. But I never really felt that like, oh, I got this. Like, because there was always there's always a new thing. There's always another crisis. There's always some other operation. Yep. And I did go back to a couple places the same, but like I've never been to Iraq. I did do Afghanistan twice, but it was different. And then like, I've done other countries. So it was like, I never really had to repeat many things over and over again. So it was always like a new problem set, like new ways to have to think about things. And then obviously as like GWAT died down and ended, and we went into like the near peer and competition and how is SOF going to evolve in that space. I then found that space really interesting, and I was like, okay, maybe that's what I'll do from now, for the rest of my career, is like figure out how to, what do we do now that we've pulled out of Afghanistan and all of that. So there was never really a time where I felt like I know everything and this is it. But there was definitely a time where it was like, I've seen enough. And, I think it's time for like it was like a new generation. I needed to take a knee. I mean, by the time I left JSOC, I had been on sea duty for like 17 years or something. So it was like, I'm done. Yeah. I'm done. I need to take
paid
a
your
knee.
dues.
Yeah.
What was that moment when you said that it was time to take a knee? When it finally hit you that it's somebody else's turn?
Yeah. So when I left DEVGRU and I went to my next command, I went to a command called Joint Cyber Operations Group.
And this was in what year?
So I went to them in 2019, like March of 2019. And they provide support to JSOC. So it was another, assessment and selection process to get there. And I had worked with that command in the past and knew a lot of those folks. So, they really encouraged me to screen. And I was like, okay, though, it's a different way to support the command. It's a change of pace.
A new challenge.
A new challenge, right.
Yeah.
So when I got there, I was there for about 3 months, and then I got promoted to E8. So,
excuse me.
Oh, no problem. Those allergies, pollen.
Man, weak genes.
Weak genes.
I feel like you're just accustomed to this area. I'm not used to all this pollen. It's a lot. But yeah, I got there and I made E8, and we literally got a call from like the senior civilian admin person at JSOC Maine. And he's a old retired E9, been around forever. And he was like, hey, congratulations on your promotion. By the way, you're the senior Navy person in that unit, and all of your billets are jacked up, and the Army basically ran amok. So we we had a lot of things we needed to fix. And I was like, well, it's been 7 years since I've been in the Navy. I've never been in the Navy as a senior enlisted person, or, the fleet as a senior enlisted person. So I was like, I don't know how to do any of this. So he helped me out. He was fantastic. But my role then really became like fixing some of the things that we had going on with the Navy, just like making sure the billets were the right rank and the right rating, and MOSs. Yeah.
Personnel management.
Exactly. And then we started a squadron. So, the command was expanding. So we were expanding our Navy footprint. So it was also like, okay, you can hire in a sergeant first class and have them do this job for 4 or 6 years, and it won't affect their promotion. I can't do that with an E7 in the Navy. Like we have to figure out a way to give them that kind of leadership. And you got to do the same thing on the Army, but we were just a little bit different in how we do things, sure. Obviously, right? So a lot of education part on that, and just like here, like I know you're telling me on your Excel spreadsheet that there's 7 E7 billets here, but I'm telling you that you do not have 7 billets according to the Navy. You have these things. So it was, learning all of that kind of personnel management program, standing up these programs, because we wanted to get our warfare qualifications, which affects our advancement. So, we needed to have some of those programs in place. And then just doing things like establishing rankings. So, unlike the Army and the Air Force, all of our E4s and E5s and E6s, that you all get ranked at the same, or your evals are at the same time every single year, right? So you get ranked amongst, not so much on the E4s, but in the E6s for sure, you just get ranked amongst your peers at that command. So you have to have like a slate, right, to kind of see where everybody racks and stacks, and then you do ranking boards. So it's good to have like year over year data on that, so you know where people were like the year prior, and making sure they're continuing to grow in their career. So doing a lot of that and like learning it, and then having to, you know, mentor not only junior sailors, but now I have chiefs that I have to like mentor to become senior chiefs. And it was just a whole new ball game. And I remember calling my best friend who made senior chief the year before, and I'm like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, what is a senior chief's job? Because all I know is like what I did as a chief on the like tactical level, and making sure that, you know, my little squadron, my intel squadron of, you know, 6 dudes, that we all had our manning in one spot. And, you know, this is what we were going to do for deployment. And if I lost somebody, I'd walk over to the N2 department and be like, hey, Master Chief, I need somebody to come fill this spot. Like, let me know when y'all work that out, basically. So it was a new challenge to like be the person that has to like then plan that out, and then, you know, figure out how we assess and select our Navy people.
The further up the pyramid you get, the less of your job you're doing, and the more personnel management you're doing. Exactly.
Yep. But I actually really enjoyed it. It was a nice break from deploying and doing workups. When I was at DEVGRU, I was there for like 6.5 years, and I deployed like 6 times altogether. So, I mean, I was busy. So it was nice to, you know, not have to worry about that so much. And I actually really enjoyed like talking to junior analysts and like junior service. It had been a long time since I had like really junior service members. Yeah. And so I enjoyed that. I liked being able to like, if they came to our leadership with a problem, okay, how do we fix this? And like, let's get this straightened out. And I really liked, again, building the command or the squadron that we, you know, established, North Squadron. It was really great to build that with the 05 commander that I had. He was awesome. And so I got a lot of joy out of like doing that. And to me, that was like a new challenge. It was a new challenge to be like
building something.
Yeah. Building something. And then, you know, being the one that has like ownership of the like man, train, equip of the Navy cadre that was there. But then we hired an E9, which, you know, I knew that was, the writing was on the wall that was going to happen, because we had multiple E9s, but, you know, we had a command sergeant major, we had a J3 sergeant major for some reason. We had a couple other Army E9s. We had an Air Force, a senior Air Force E9, and so naturally we had a Navy E9. And he didn't come to the command for a while because his wife was having a baby, which was fine. So we hired him, and then it was like another, you know, almost a year before he showed up. And I remember like it was a couple months before he came, and I was talking to my commander, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about doing like because I was only there for 2.5 years. And I originally had 4-year orders. And at that point I was like, well, if that 4 years is up at JCOG, I can just extend another 1.5 years or whatever and just finish out my time in the Navy. So I figured JCOG might be my last stop.
JCOG?
Joint Cyber Operations Group. So I figured that would be my last stop. And then as we were, you know, a couple months out, we were getting turnover ready because the commander position was turning over also. I was like, I'm doing like an ops chief job and the, you know, SCL for the senior enlisted leader for the squadron. When he gets here, I'm going to be the ops chief, which like I'm already doing both. And I know myself to know, you know, when I have ownership of something, like I want to be involved in it and like see it through. So it just wasn't going to be, again, like challenging for me to like do this ops chief job while, you know, everything that I've built, I'm basically being like, here you go. And now I don't get any say in any of the processes that I've helped build.
Right. You're turning over everything you just built.
Right.
To somebody who's taken a year to get here.
Yeah, which was fine. But like just kind of the culture of how and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was very much like if you weren't an Army E9, you were involved in the command decisions, which was like so like completely opposite of what the chief's mess is in the Navy, where it's like, no, we get like, as soon as you are putting on anchors, you're sitting in the chief's mess listening to everybody talk about whatever leadership problems they got, they have going on, even the command master chief. And they would laugh at me, because they would be like, she will say anything. Like, she's just fearless. And I'm like, I thought we were in the trust tree. Aren't we all like senior enlisted? Aren't we kind of like in the mess right now? And they were like, no, that's not how that works.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I was also a little bit of a culture shock to people, but so it was just, it was just kind of the way it was. So, talking to my commander, I was like, hey, I might have an opportunity to like go do a deployment in Iraq, because I was friends with some folks that were like, we need another J2 in the rotation.
That's an individual augmentee type.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, like, what should I do? And then this legislative fellowship had been something that people had recommended it to me in the past. And my commander was like, I think you should just apply to be a congressional fellow and see if you get picked up. And if you don't, then great, you can stay here at JCOG. And if you do, then on to the next big thing, right? So I was like, okay, all right, cool, I will do that. And thankfully, the guy that was replacing me was my detailer. So he was like, yeah, approved, you can go. So, that worked out in my favor. But so put that package in. That's like a whole series, a letter of recommendation. And then I had to write an essay, which I had just finished the Joint Special Operation Forces Senior Enlisted Academy. Did you go to that? No, just OFSI? Well, in my, what I thought was like the mess, the senior leadership mess,
the trust tree.
The trust tree, I had started to be a little bit difficult in that, like, there's not any PME for the Navy that you're advocating for, like, or the Air Force, it's very Army heavy. So it was like, hey, we're doing all these things, but I'm like, this doesn't benefit anybody like in the services, right? So the first thing he did is he sent me and my battle buddy, another senior chief, to JSOFC for 9 months. And I was like, I'm not sure this was what I was asking for, but it ended up being a great experience. I'm actually still really close with some of the JSOFC folks that I went to class with. But
where is that?
So it is like 6 months, I think, or 9 months online. So it's like virtual. And then you do 2 months in Tampa at JSOW.
Okay.
Yeah.
JSOW. Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think we were actually the very last cohort that wasn't able to go in person because of COVID. So we had to do the 2 months online, which I actually didn't mind because I just, stayed home and like dialed into Zoom on class. Right?
And your slippers.
In my slippers, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's, kind of how it came to be. And it was like, the commander talked me into saying, hey, why don't you just give this a try? So did that, and there was an online interview for that. That wasn't nearly as intensive as some of the other assessments that I had been to, and they selected me, and I PCS'd probably a couple months later because I didn't have to move or anything, and I went through orientation in like November of 2021 to be a fellow on the Hill. And then I spent January to December of 2022 working for a congressman in the House. And that was great. So it was like, again, exciting, something completely out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Definitely a culture shock. Not at all what I was just expecting, but like a fantastic experience. I really, really liked it. Yeah. When did you decide you wanted to fully retire? Is that supposed to be a bridge? Yeah.
The fellowship or
so
how does that work?
The fellowship, every service does it a little bit differently. But basically you spend 1 year on the Hill and then you owe your service like 3 years after that.
Yeah.
So the timing really just worked out for me where I think I hit 16 years while I was on the Hill. Gotcha. Or 17 years.
Gotcha.
So like my next tour, I could decide at that point. And my detailers had switched out because the one had replaced me, and the new one not into the negotiating.
not so much.
Not so much into the negotiating. And I was like, look, I don't really care where you send me as long as you keep me in the States, because I am like pretty sure I'm ready to retire. Because at that point, like, I had done, 7 deployments, because I did one kind of short deployment with JCOG, I was like, I'm tired. Like, I'm not trying to go back out to sea after this, year on the hill. Like, I want my shore duty because we have a sea-shore rotation. Most ratings do. And I'm like, I've spent more than my fair share out at sea. Like, I don't care where you send me. You can send me to a boat, fine, but just keep me stateside so that I can, like, work on retiring. That didn't happen, and he tried to send me to England.
Which is not in the United States.
Not in the United States. Also, not anywhere cool like London, because I tell people, like, they're like, you didn't want to go to England? And I'm like, no, I wanted to retire. I had a dog and, like, my first stable, like, apartment where I wasn't deploying all the time. I'm like, I just wanted to be retired, right? And not have to worry about that. But so, I started kind of talking to people and, what are you going to do next? And I had a former SEAL commander that I had worked with who was like, hey, I'm taking over this other command to be the CO. Why don't you come work for us? And I was like, I don't really want to go back to Virginia Beach. Like, DC's treating me pretty good right now. And he's like, no problem. We'll get you a billet in DC. So worked with me, worked with the NSW folks they had identified a billet, and somehow between my detailer and whatnot, like, it just kind of fell through.
Deals were made
or not, but it ended up kind of working out perfect because I had a master chief who had contacted me because she was applying for the fellowship, and she had worked in the Navy's Office of Women's Policy, and she was like, oh my God, there's nobody to come and replace the person that's in there right now, and it's a senior chief billet, and any job could fill it. So I was like, yeah, I would definitely be interested in that. Like, it makes sense coming off the hill into, working on policy and legislation, and answering now on the other side, the policy and legislation.
Plus you have the contacts.
Yeah. And, I'm like, yeah, I want to make life better for women in the Navy, sure. And it would keep me in DC, which was even better. So it was funny because the detailer's like, nope, you got to go to England.
Really set on that.
Really set on it. And then I had a by name request come in, and they were like, okay, no problem. You can stay here. Nice. So it was pretty funny. But because I think at one point I told him, I'm like, I cannot be the only CTR in the fleet that has to go back to sea duty. I'm like, I know that there are people at Fort Meade that have not been to sea in years. Yeah. He's like, no, you got to go.
Had you wronged this person in some way?
He called me. I think there was a little bit of the, I don't want to say jealousy, because that's probably not it, but like the stigma of like, oh, you spent all this time in NSW. Yeah, you think you're special and all of that. And I'm like, I'm really trying to work with you. Like, send anywhere in the continental United States. I don't even care. Yeah. But it didn't work out. So, it worked out for the Office of Women's Policy. I interviewed with them, and, they had great flexibility. I got to telework for the first couple of years that I was in that office, which was fantastic. So I went there, and, that was a new challenge too. But I pretty much knew after the fellowship, like, yeah, I don't...
Kind of glide path at this point.
Yeah. And especially because I felt that, like, when you go from being, in a place where you have a lot of autonomy and you're doing a lot of, like, high-speed things, how am I supposed to go back to, like, what do I do to top that isn't going to, like, bore me to death, right?
I've experienced this a few times myself, yes.
And I didn't feel that the rank that I was and the rating that I was, that like any command in the Navy was really going to give me that same satisfaction and that same challenge.
I get it.
Yeah. And then when I got to the fellowship, it was like, all right, now my head's even bigger, right? Like, now I'm really got like a high bar for like what could be the next job. And I think people kind of like laughed at me a little bit when I would say, like, I like women's policy. I like that women's policy job. It's not just women's policy, but, being in that policy world, because, you set the policy for advancement, for personnel.
You are shaping everything around you.
Yeah, uniforms and healthcare and, PT and all of that. Like, that was all in my building. So,
well, I mean, like you said, when you were doing that first float, you didn't feel like you were having that kind of direct impact.
Right.
That you had thought when you enlisted.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a decade plus later, you're impacting everyone.
Yeah. And it's hard to be like, okay, and but I'm still an E8 when I go back to the fleet. Like I've still got to have, and I feel like I've grown as a leader and grown as a person. I'm also like, I'm particular about who I work for, and I like.
You get a little bit more negotiating power.
Yeah,
I get it.
So it's it was time. I think it was time, and again, I just kind of felt like I outgrew what I felt like I could do and what I wanted to do, and I wanted to also be close to my family, and like focus on my personal self. So. I was on the glide path to retire pretty early.
So you dropped that packet.
Literally 23 months out. Yeah. I was like, here you go.
Yeah.
My papers had been dropped for a while. Yeah.
We've talked about it before, that when you'll know when it's time.
Yeah.
It's not something that really creeps up on you.
Yeah.
What was the moment where you were like, yep,
I think I'm done.
That's it. It's over.
I think it was when they told me I had to go to England.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like, I don't want to do that. And like, I didn't feel that was like,
yep.
And I also, it was some of the like rhetoric that I had gotten where it was like, I'm always a big believer in like, things are what you make them. Like, yes, things can suck, but like, I remember being in the yards and like doing just really disgusting and like things that just sucked, right? Like welding. And, it's a Saturday at 2 and I want to be on the beach and I'm at work, trying to figure out how to weld, but we're like cracking jokes and, hey, sir, go buy Firewatch so we don't get in trouble.
You can have
right?
you can have the worst, grimiest job in the world, but if you work with good people,
right,
it doesn't matter how much you're getting paid or what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you work with the right people,
it
makes it worth it.
Exactly. And then I had a lot of mission satisfaction as some of my other deployments came on, and so I'm just a big believer in like it is what you make it, and I feel like I've always excelled in the jobs that I've had, so I don't really feel like there's any job that the military or anything that could throw at me that I couldn't try and figure out, right? Even if it is painful and I beat my head, like, I think that's a characteristic of a lot of people in special operations and some of those more technical jobs. Like, we're going to grit our teeth and get to an answer, no matter how painful it is to get there.
Yeah.
So, it was just kind of like, there's just nothing else for me, you know. Once you get to the legislative side, it was like, this is it. I want to do my own thing. I want something that's mine that I don't have to like turn over at some point.
Well, people like the three of us who are in for a long time, if you want to call it a career, fine. But we still often have to rationalize, mostly to ourselves, why we chose to retire. When we've just done something that 0.01% of the population in the country will never do. Yeah. We don't have to rationalize.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, I just did 20 plus years getting blown up and did all the things. Like, I'm ready to go do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because like, I think I had a good plan getting out, even though I still don't really know what I want to do when I grow up.
When you grow up.
Right, yeah. Still not really sure and kind of playing it by ear a little bit. But like, I was pretty good with finances. I had enough money saved up. I started like putting away a lot of money and investing and all of that. So I felt like I was in a good, stable position where like, okay, I'm going to get out. But like, if I, for some reason, just have no money, like I have a friend's house, I have my family. So I knew, I felt secure that like I will be okay. And again, I'm like, maybe I'll just go hand out towels at the gym. I don't know. One day you're like, I want to take over the world. And then the next day you're like,
I want to go fishing.
Yeah, I'm going to be a Walmart greeter, right? And I'm still in like that, like, I want to go fishing type mentality where it's like, I don't have any desire to like have a job right now.
Okay, well, let's take a break real quick and then we'll get into the transition portion.
Oh, yeah.
But you dropped your packet about 2 years out.
I did, yeah.
Which is Not uncommon.
That's what I did.
Did anybody in particular really try to persuade you to stay in?
I think a lot of people that I worked with in the building were like, they would kind of joke with me about like, oh, we could always like pull it back. You don't have to do that. I think people really like asked me to think about it, but I think for some of the things that I was doing on the outside and for what like I was really interested in and what I really wanted to do, I think people were like, nah, you should go do something else. Like,
did anybody hit you with the? And I'm sure Roger got this too. I know I did. Yeah, we understand, but the Navy's really gonna miss you. Did you ever get that one?
No, but I will say this. I think I learned pretty early on that like the Navy and even SOF, right? We used to say this about DEVGRU, like this command will take and take and take and take and take. So you have to like realize when it's time to go, or figure out how you separate, right? And I think I experienced it where I thought like, this is my identity. Like, this is what I do. I show up to work and we, do these intel assessments and we go on deployment and, we kill bad guys. We send guys to the X. Like, that's what we do. That is what my lot in life is going to be. And there was a few rough years there, but, I started to realize like that's not healthy. And, thankfully had a great psych while I was at the command, op psych that was there that, talked to us a lot. And I think I learned pretty early on that like, I have to have those personal boundaries and have my own personality away from that and the military and even that work. Right. And like, that's always going to be a part of me, but I don't feel that I'm like a lost soul without the military.
Do you know what the Army's motto is? Well,
be strong.
There's two. Not the recruiting. It's the Army goes rolling along. That's our song.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I told myself. I was like, if I leave, it's gonna. And then I was like, wait a minute.
No.
The Army will go rolling along.
Yeah, the train never stops.
That's the point. Like,
you really are just a name in the Alpha roster.
Yeah.
And your name will be replaced immediately by somebody else.
Faces and spaces.
This sounds so like morbid, but I'm sure you guys will get it. Like that lesson that I learned where it's like, oh no matter what happens, we will continue, is like we literally had an op go down and it was rough, like really rough. A lot of assets. We had a lot of injuries and we had a guy that was shot and died like immediately. As soon as like the tick kicked off, he was shot and I think pretty much died instantly. And they all came back, but literally like the next day, the troop, and not that they were callous or anything, but it was like, we have to start planning our next stop now because we're going to do this again in like two weeks. And it's like, okay, now you have to, compartmentalize everything that just happened over the last like 48 hours and then start to try and do this again. And so that is like really a hard lesson I feel like I got slapped in the face with. And I didn't really learn it right away. I think it took a lot of like really trying to go through therapy and talk through some of these things that have, some of these events that have happened on deployment, to realize that like this command is going to be here. It was here way before I was. It's going to be here way after me, and that's what we train for, right? Like someone goes down, that's why you have a relief to step in. So, I consider myself pretty lucky that I feel like I got that lesson pretty early on before retirement. And especially when I came into the women's policy job, my op tempo really slowed down. So it was like, and really during COVID too, because we were working like a week on and week off, which was wild. I was like, I'm going to get a whole week off. Like, that's stupid. Why would we ever do that? And then I started doing it and I was like, well, this is kind of nice. Actually, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to like do my PME.
Yep.
But it like really forced me to be like, what do I like to do? What are my hobbies?
Who am I?
Yeah, exactly. And so I've tried to really work on that throughout the years and just be, I think that was like a good segue into retirement and being like okay with getting out. I mean, the people is of course the biggest thing that I miss. Like that's huge.
Nobody misses the job really. They miss the people.
Right.
All right, I
don't miss the circus, but I do miss the monkeys.
That's a good one. I'm going to do that.
Let's go ahead and take a break. So, chosen to retire. Mm-hmm. You're pretty set with, finances and a place to go, and, you're comfortable with your decision.
Yeah.
You've made your peace with it. Mm-hmm. That was about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
How are things going so far? Good.
Very happy to be retired. Don't regret retiring at all. It was a little hard the last year, actually. And I don't want to get too much into politics, but because of some of the policies that were coming down, we were really ground zero for a lot of it. And there was a lot of like knee-jerk reactions to things where it was like, okay, pause, everybody take a deep breath. No one's dying, no one's getting shot at. Like, we don't have to rip down everything or tear everything up or rework or whatever. We're in staff jobs now. Like, let's try and think through this and not make assumptions, right? And knee-jerk react. So there was just a lot of that happening the last really like 8 months that I was in. Now, I was gone a lot because I still had a lot of medical stuff that I needed to do and a lot of appointments. And, at one point, like, I am someone that will, like, bury myself in work. So I had to be very intentional about, like, stepping away and letting others take over and answer questions and, find information and all of that. Because really what I was doing was, answering congressional RFI, so any questions that were coming out of hearings, we were doing that. I would also, answer questions from individuals like in the fleet, in the Navy, that had questions about parenthood, pregnancy, childcare, uniforms, and not all of that fell into like we weren't policy owners for all of those things, but we did a lot of work to like build those relationships so that we could, not disadvantage sailors. So, did a lot of that. And so I had a lot of free time to be able to kind of step back and really focus on getting out and transitioning. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to go to school. I thought at one point when I was going to get out of the fellowship, I actually finished my bachelor's while I was a fellow on the Hill. My bachelor's took about 16 years in the making, between like trying to fit classes in and then deploying a lot and then just trying to like get through the classes after COVID. So I'd finished my bachelor's in 2012, or 2022, sorry. And then I was going to take a year off because I was like, this is like, I've done just off-sea. I did the Navy at Senior Enlisted Academy. I've been doing 2 college classes for like a year and a half now. Like, I just needed a break. So I took a year off. I was going to get my master's because I wanted to be set up when I got out. I was like, I don't want to have to worry about getting my master's when I get out. I have my bachelor's in management studies. So I was like, I'll probably get something similar to that. I didn't really have like anything that was calling my name of like, I want to get my degree in this and do this exactly when I get out. So I started to do like not an MBA, but like a master's in management studies, I think is what I forget exactly what UMGC calls it. But I got accepted into their master's program. I went to go take the first class, which was really just like or more like an orientation. And I made it like 2 days and I was like, I'm not doing this right now. Like I sit at a computer all day long at work and read and like write and, have to think through all this information and write papers and do, write these answers and all of that. So I was like, I had my best friend retired the year before me, and she was doing something completely different. So she was a linguist in the Navy, and then decided she wanted to get into the medical field and be a physician's assistant. So that's a whole lot of schooling, and that's what she was doing, and she was, enjoying that like work-life balance. And it was like, okay, she financially is okay. Like, I don't know what her finances are like, but I'll be okay. So then I was like, well, I'm just going to go to school when I get out. I'll just get a master's and I can just focus on going to school, because I really wanted to get my master's in something that I cared about. I really wanted to like devote the time to it and not just be like, oh, it's 8:00. I got to hammer out this, blog post or whatever they call it, responses on the discussion boards. And
like Blackboard.
Yes, yeah. I can't stand that. Yeah. And I wanted to do it in person because I wanted to have like that camaraderie experience.
Interaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially coming out of lockdowns.
Right.
Yeah.
And also like getting into a new field, right? Like, hey, the purpose of me getting this is to transition out of the military. So let me meet people that are not in the military, right?
Networking is a thing.
Exactly. So I was pretty set on like, I will get my master's. And, I wanted to be closer to my family. So I was like, UNC Charlotte sounds great. They got a great MBA program. Cause then I also was like, maybe I want to build something of my own. So I'm not just coming in and, cause I always kind of felt in these jobs that I was like fixing something or like something happened.
You're a caretaker when you're in the military.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. So I wanted something that was like mine. And I still do. And then, be able to pick who I worked with. I really appreciated that about, special operations. I mean, not everyone is fantastic, but for the most part, like you get a vote in who you work with, which is pretty nice. So I appreciated that and I wanted to do that, but I was like, that'll give me time to go to school. I can focus on that and then do a little like soul searching and figure out what it is that I want to like put my time and attention into.
When you grow up.
When I grow up. At some point. So yeah, that's kind of why I decided to do that. But that really, to me, lifted a big burden off my shoulders because I was familiar with how to, use the GI Bill. I was familiar with, hey, get a VSO. Like, I knew that. I had a great recommendation for a VSO to help me with my disability claim. That was really the biggest priority that I had and the biggest thing that made me nervous about transitioning out. I didn't go physically to TAP. I just did TAP online. I just like let it play and
digital TAP.
Yeah.
That's kind of what
not even like the live version.
Like. I got a slideshow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just let the slides play.
Yeah.
I just let them play.
Yeah.
It's too much information. I'm like, I don't need to know how to make a budget. I don't really need to know how to like I know what my career field can do in the civilian. I don't want to do that.
Well, TAP is made, and I really don't mean this to sound condescending, but it's made for the lowest common denominator.
No, 100%.
So if you're 21-year-old E4 who's getting out, like it's
at 3
the program's
years.
Made for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did it because you have to do it, and so I just let it play in the background. But I actually went to, I don't know if you guys know these guys, is it Banks and Donovan or Donovan and Banks Foundation?
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah, and I'm blanking on their names. They were great. Yeah, everybody knows people around here, right? I feel like, but they put on a great retirement, like I don't want to say symposium, but kind of conference.
Yeah.
Seminar. There we go. That's a good word for it. And it was like 2 days. And I liked what they talked about because it wasn't the standard like, okay, go to the Navy Cool website and here's the civilian equivalent to your thing and here's how you get your resume to look like this. It was like, hey, maybe you don't want to do that when you get out. Maybe you want to do something completely different. And it was good to hear like a different perspective on that. And to say like, all right, here's some different options with, survivor benefit plan. Here's, things to look out for when you're separating and, here's some other finance things to consider. So I really appreciated that it wasn't just like, here is exactly, A, B, C, D on how to get out of the military so that you can come back and just work in the same place, which is fine. Yeah. Some people love doing that and that's fantastic. Good for them. But, it was good to get a different like kind of outside perspective.
I did my fellowship with the Honor Foundation and they were awesome.
I was close. I almost did the Honor Foundation. I thought I would for a long time because that seemed like what every one of my peers did, right?
It was great.
Is do that, yeah. And I've heard amazing things about it. I got to a point though where it was like I didn't really feel that I needed a lot of help networking because I had just finished up as a fellow on the Hill. So I like felt comfortable reaching out and like having, making a network, building a network. And then I was a little too far along where it was like, I already know I want to go to school and I want to get my MBA. I don't really know much else. And then it was like do I really want to spend like 6 months in basically a college course? And I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to, or however long it is. So I don't know. It was just, it didn't really make sense, I think, for me at the time. But I have heard amazing things about it. And I'm on a board for a nonprofit called the DEVGRU Project, and I know that my colleagues have like partnered with them in the past. Yeah, I mean that's a great thing, but
we've talked briefly about it before on the show. I think maybe more in depth than I'm remembering, but there is a transition industrial complex, shall we say?
Yeah,
that's a term we've coined.
Yes.
Have you?
Well, I'd like to think so.
We use it anyway.
I like it. I think it's because you're right. There is.
Have you? Is that something that you noticed before you were officially retired, or is that something that has just kind of become more prevalent to you since retirement?
The transitioning kind of pipeline complex or industrial complex. I would never have coined it that way. So I think that's a great way to describe it. I became more aware of it while I was a fellow, because a lot of that stuff comes from like congressional direction to say, hey, DOD, you need to institute all of these topics or XYZ topics into TAP. And sometimes it's like well-meaning, but doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in practice. So I think it's just gotten to be like, well, if we give them just so much information because, someone gets out and, something bad happens or they're in a bad place and, maybe they didn't know that when they got out or they didn't have the resources or whatever. I think people in Congress hear that and then it's like, okay, we're going to legislate that the military needs to talk about this particular thing when military transitions, and then it becomes, a 3-week class out of nowhere. And then there's private companies that are also trying to
the nonprofits are the ones I had in mind when I really there's like,
there's
it's a house of cards.
nonprofits.
There's a lot of organizations out there that say they have a network and a capability that don't do any of those things except raise money. Yeah.
Well, so the one thing I will say, and I don't know, I haven't not kept in touch with the Banks and Donovan guys, but the one thing I did appreciate about their seminar is that they went through some of them and they were like, if you're here in your transition, maybe consider these ones. If you want to be an entrepreneur, maybe consider these nonprofits to help you. If you don't want to run a business, like don't even talk to these people type deal. So I think that was really good in having someone
it's
that
triage.
Yeah, knew that landscape. But yeah, that landscape's huge. I mean, even, VSOs, right? I had a lot of interaction with VSOs on the Hill in their lobbying capacity. But, it became very clear that like VFW is not going to be for me. Maybe DAV, Wounded Warrior Project is who I went through, and they've been fantastic. I have nothing but like great things to say about them helping out. And then I also was able to utilize the SOCOM Warrior Care Program, which is also fantastic. That helped me a lot more with resume building. It was a lot more personal. So it was like, send us your bio, send us, your transcripts, etc. So they helped me with my resume a little bit more than like just going and getting the standard, like, here's how you define military leadership versus civilian leadership. So I kind of went down that route a little bit more than just the kind of general tab. But yeah, there's so many nonprofits out there. I mean, yeah.
Is there something that you've thought of or maybe experienced since you retired, so like in the last 6 months, that you thought, oh man, I wish I had known that beforehand?
That's a good one.
Or I wish I had, done that beforehand.
The number one thing I tell people is I wish I would have started the medical stuff earlier. And that's probably a gimme for a lot of folks, but like no kidding, if it hurts, if it itches, if it like cracks, just go get it on paper. Like, even if you don't get compensation for it, document everything. And request your medical record way far in advance. I think I requested my full medical record probably about a year out, which I'm glad I did, because TAP was telling people 30 days. Mm-mm. And I was like, it took them 3 months to get it back to me. And when I got it, I had to like make 4 copies of, a file that's this big.
Yeah.
And then
TAP is really for people with maybe, 4, 6, 8 years in, not for a full, 20 plus, or your medical records
with multiple combat
are all over the place.
All over the place. 8 different databases. Yeah. Mine had also been, there was a building in San Diego that flooded. So my service record and part of my medical record was laying in the parking lot sun drying. So I still have the water damaged medical records on paper from when.
What a good story.
Yeah. It's old, but yeah.
Have you reached out to other veterans that not necessarily that they've retired, but they exited service and you've maintained relations with them, to see how they handled their transition, or like looking for lessons learned from them to help you?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, I've mentioned my best friend a couple times, right? Like, I ask her questions all the time because I'm like, I don't know how to do healthcare. Like, do I have to make my own appointments? Like, do I have to go sign it? Like, what am I supposed to do? So kind of navigating that initial, VA. And I mean, the VA has someone, of course, like they have this like VA starter program. They call you like once a week for 6 months or something like that. I don't know. They call me all the time, but
a full year.
A full year. That's what it is. Year. Yeah. I don't talk to them, which is part of my problem, I'm sure. But an elder millennial, I don't like to talk on the phone, but I do ask them for advice. I kind of like see what they say. I've had a couple friends that have gone the MBA route, and just kind of getting like, when should I start school? When does it make sense? Like, what are kind of some of the things that you could prepare for to start your MBA? So more in that kind of realm, but no one that I'm like close with that has retired recently regrets it. I think there's probably been a couple of times where they've struggled a little bit with like maybe a purpose, but I don't think anybody regrets it that I've talked to. And
the grass is greener.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I'm not gonna lie. I miss the people, but I'm glad that my phone's not ringing at 2 a.m. anymore. So.
Amen.
Hey, sir, you got a minute?
Yeah.
It never takes a minute.
No. Are you awake? No, I'm not.
I wasn't.
I am
Yeah.
This better be good.
Yeah, exactly.
So in the last 6 months, would you say that you are well on the road to finding out who you are outside the Navy?
I think I am good about finding like personal things and hobbies that I'm into. I need to get myself on a like routine because I have sleep issues, of course, from the military, right? So my
nonsense.
Yeah,
Nonsense.
I know that never happens. I'm on a steady schedule of like stay up really late, like go fall asleep, wake up at about 3:30 in the morning, get really tired again, and then it's like 10 a.m. right? And I really just let myself like really not do anything for a while, especially like leading up to the holidays, and moved myself into my aunt and uncle's place, which was a little bit of work.
Decompression is important.
It is,
especially after so long.
Yeah. And I'm still really active in like women's policy for the service. That's what I'm doing with the DEVGRU project. So we do a yearly symposium, and I led the planning for last year's symposium in DC, but this year we did it in Bragg last month. And so I got really involved in doing that in the beginning of the year, myself and one of my colleagues. And so that, was like something I was doing in the beginning of the year, just, reaching out to panelists and speakers and trying to organize the symposium. So, it was a hobby. I like to do my nails. It's like very therapeutic for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I've like started to really get into into that.
I
Yeah,
I do too.
I can do them for you if you'd like. Give you a manicure. No, just kidding. But and then get back into the gym. I kind of got away from that. Like I was really big into Olympic lifting for a long time, and
Oli.
yeah, it's my favorite. I just find it like very like mentally clearing for me.
What's your favorite lift?
Oh, snatches.
Oh, jeez.
It's so.
That's the worst answer.
No, it's so like when you can be like, I can snatch my body weight. Like that's cool.
You're stronger than me.
That's cool. I can't do it anymore, but there was a point.
There was a time.
There was a time. I'm getting back there though, but I had like hip issues and I had gotten hurt jumping at one point. So
getting old sucks.
Oh yeah, I turned 40 last month. I'm like, what happened?
Were you on jump status when you were in DEVGRU and all that?
So I went to airborne.
Yeah.
And I passed airborne, and then I went to free fall because we had a requirement to have two intel bodies that were free fall.
Very cool.
I hit a tree in free fall though, and I sprained my ankle. Got 19 jumps in.
Hey, Yuma?
No, where was I? Yeah, Yuma. Mm-hmm. At the airfield, right, with the airplane cemetery or whatever. I did not land on an airplane, but yeah. But I did hit a tree and sprained my ankle pretty bad, so I couldn't finish. But I was literally like 5 jumps away, so that was pretty sad. But I had a really good time doing free fall. Sarah Curtis was my instructor. She's phenomenal. She's like my size, And I was like, I don't like jumping this big parachute. But
it's very different than static line.
Oh, I hate static line. You could not pay me.
Static line's not fun.
No. When I was at JCOG, I had the opportunity to be on jump status for some reason, but I was like, there is no way that $150 a month is worth static line. My first ever static line jump, I went to the Navy static line, and I don't know what happened when I left the plane, but something hit me in the face. So I had this like black eye. I like busted up my nose. And then I had went with one of my intel guys. So we're in San Diego, of course, and
I didn't know the Navy had its own static line.
It did, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's part of the like special operations pipeline. So it was mostly like SEAL SWCC that went through the course because they finish doing whatever, and then at some point in their pipeline they go to static and then immediately into free fall. I had heard at one point they got rid of the static line requirement because that's not what the Navy does, and it's dangerous. No need to get hurt if you don't need to. So I heard that they had transitioned away from making us do static line, but at the time I had to get static line qualified before I could go to free fall.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I got busted up pretty bad at static. And
Sorry for the diversion.
No, it's okay.
Before we wind this down, tell us about the Valkyrie Project.
Okay, yeah. So the Valkyrie Project's a nonprofit, and we're focused primarily in empowering women service members through human performance, education, and then advocating for policies. It was originally started as a for-profit company, and it started because the founder, Meg, she was in the Army. She was an Army, I'm going to jack up the helicopter name, helicopter pilot, I forget. I don't know. I forget. But the platform went away. So
probably the Kiowas.
Yes, the Kiowas. Yes. Yeah, that's right.
That's
Kiowa. Right. The Kiowa. She was a Kiowa pilot. That platform went away, so the Army was like, do something else or you have to get out. So she decided to go for being a psychological operations officer. So while she was getting ready to go through assessment and selection, she found that there wasn't any type of like physical training available or like the human performance knowledge to help her, to train her to the point where she could, crush assessment and selection. And it also took into account some of like the female autonomy. So whether that was like basing your training around your menstrual cycle or, some of the weaker points that women just naturally have compared to men, and some of the different ways that we should be trained because our body fat's different, etc. So it was originally started to provide this like coaching that was, took into account female physiology and helped women service members pass their service PRT or, get ready to go to a selection school. I got introduced to them in 2023. It was a really just luck of the draw, connection with a friend of ours, Catherine, who was a Marine Corps officer. She was also in special operations, and then she had gotten out and started this company called Cadre that, and her whole goal is to design female fit uniforms, gear and apparel,
Gotcha.
Everything, like the whole combat system.
Well, ergonomic.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the random times I was on Facebook, saw this like Women in SOF group post that was like, hey, I'm trying to write a letter to Congress about why we need legislation to get, better fitting plate carriers. So I responded and was like, well, I'm finishing up this fellowship, like happy to chat and tell you my own horror stories about ill-fitting gear.
To be fair, I don't think the gear fits anybody.
No, it doesn't. It does not. It is actually one of the top causes of musculoskeletal injuries for everybody in the military. So, they asked me to participate in this symposium that they were putting on. It was the first one. It was in 2023. And so I did. I moderated a panel because I'd also been working now for a few months in the Office of Women's Policy. So I was pretty well versed on just the kind of policy environment for the Navy and the DOD. And then they asked me to be on the board because we decided to transition it to a nonprofit to really expand the scope of it's one thing to provide the human performance training, but there's also some of these larger policies and legislation across the military that need to be addressed. Yeah. And then research is the other big gap. So something like 80% of human performance in medical research is done on men. So usually women have higher cases of being misdiagnosed, or they're overdiagnosed, or they're, maybe there's a problem that the provider just doesn't have the education or the knowledge about
Sure.
it. So, we wanted to also push really hard to get this research done, which includes some of the anthropometric type research that you had talked about with better fitting gear. So that's what we're trying to do. And then it's a nonprofit. We're trying to build ourselves up. We're very tiny right now. We've continued on with the symposium. And in 2024, we actually started writing what we call our critical research topic for the advancement of women in the service, our CRTAWS. And I'm going to blame
You've got to have a good acronym.
Oh, I was about to say, I was going to blame, Meg was an Army officer, right? So, and
such a Kiowa pilot.
Lots of Army on our board, but so our CRTAWS, and that was really to highlight kind of these themes that we were getting feedback on from women service members and veterans of ill-fitting gear or policies that affected them, and sometimes it's things like childcare, mm-hmm. right? So we kind of kept in that same 5 themes in the CRTAWS. So we did it again for 2025, and we're kind of readjusting a little bit. Just the current policy environment right now kind of makes it a little difficult to get things through. I guess just saying female fit or women is just controversial. I actually had to remove wording from the women's policy website about pregnancy, and I couldn't say servicewoman. I had to say service member, and it was this huge ordeal. And I was like. But you guys said the only people that can get pregnant are women, so okay.
That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, exactly.
We're tracking.
Yeah,
yes.
But it was just so we've had to kind of readjust, and ultimately we want the same goal, right? We just want all service members to be able to have the gear that fits them, so they can move, shoot, communicate without being injured, and through also these different life cycles. So as women are in their reproductive years, as they're in perimenopause, how can they adjust training? Now that women are staying in the military longer, looking at some of the menopause research that needs to be done, and how we can support, policies throughout that life change, mostly in the healthcare side, right? And human performance. So that's really what we try and do. We had, again, our yearly symposium. We're trying to build more partnerships with academia. We have a lot of, doctors and researchers kind of in our network that are interested in conducting this research. So it's getting the right people and getting the right funding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you had the first symposium was in 2023?
Yep.
So it's you've had it for a few years now.
Yep.
What has the feedback been from either women in uniform
From the force.
or female veterans?
Yeah, so overwhelmingly positive. I think a lot of people appreciate like being in a space with people with similar experiences. Like most women are used to being the only or one of the onlys in the room, and so sometimes you just don't have that same life experience. So I think it's been like a good place for people to come and say like, I have been asking, providers about this particular health question and nobody knows, right? Or like what's being done about this. And so to just have those experts in the room to help like hear that from the service member, but then also provide additional context to the service member if that, or education, right? So overwhelmingly positive. It is, you can't please everybody, of course.
Oh, of course.
And my job in women's policy, we also owned what they call affinity groups, and I don't know if the other services call them something else, but they're basically non-federal entities of various nonprofits that focus on whatever demographic it may be, and they would have like these, large symposiums every year. So we were like,
what about left-handed?
You could start one. You could try and start one.
My people have been oppressed.
Not oppressed enough since you still exist.
Do you know what the Latin word for left-handed is?
What's that?
Sinister.
Is it?
Yes.
I didn't know that. You should just call it that.
Sinestro.
Yeah, sinestro. But yeah, you could start a nonprofit for that. Start a scholarship.
Patent pending.
Yeah. But kind of seeing these around, like, it's like an opportunity to mentor, and I think a lot of people enjoy that. I think we've shifted audiences a little bit, particularly
changing mindsets.
So that's the thing with like some of these symposiums. A lot of times you're already getting like more or less the believers, right? Like
right.
You're already getting the people that like have bought into the idea. So, there's still some of the education piece that we try and hit, like, hey, you as a service member, consider these nutrition tips while you're out in the field or underway if you can't like eat, a normal meal all the time or whatever, or have to prepare for going and doing an exercise for however long. How do you maintain, without burning yourself out or injuring yourself? But we haven't really gotten like the senior decision makers that aren't already bought into this is why this is important. Yeah. But I think that's pretty common with all of these. So,
pretty much all policy.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
And these like symposiums that are, focused on a demographic, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and we really tried to invite like senior DoD leadership. We've definitely invited, congressional leaders. But that appetite to come to those things just in this current environment is just not there. So we shifted to like, all right, let's make sure that we can help like really the end user. And that's, today's service member.
If you could just magically snap your fingers and one policy would change for women across all services or maybe just the Navy, whichever. One policy that you could change right now, what would it be?
I'm going to take an easy route only because I'm working on this right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and especially because it affects women, specifically. I mean, there's tons of things I would change with talent management, but that's another 3 hours. The policy would be just figuring out how we better fit gear across the board, right? For women specifically, like this is kind of a statistic that gets thrown out there, and there's tons of haters on this statistic, so I'm sure I'm going to get some. But when USASOC did a study with their female population a couple of years ago, and there's like 2,000 women in USASOC at the time, and a big chunk of their gear didn't fit, or they were buying it by themselves or spending their own money or paying a lot of money to get it tailored to fit right. Instead of the command kind of, hey, let's put a requirement out there to industry that this exists. And, they can develop it for us because there's a military requirement, and then we can buy it. That wasn't happening. But there's, 200 service dogs across the entire SOCOM enterprise. And male service dogs have a set of equipment, and female service dogs have a different set of equipment. So we've clearly acknowledged anatomical differences there. So why can't we do this here? And I don't really know what the big pushback is, but curved plates exist. I'm gonna harp on my friend. I'm gonna shout her out a million times because I think what she's doing is amazing. But she's created a plate carrier for HICOM curved plates. She's launched this line in the UK because the UK and NATO, they were like, we want this for our service women, and we want it to fit, and we want them to be, as lethal and, ready as they can be. So I think it would be that. I would say a policy that directs the proper fitting of gear. And for women...
That seems quite reasonable.
But also men.
It does seem reasonable. However...
I know.
The Molly gear, when the Molly gear was first issued, this is 2000...
Mid-2000s.
2003, 2004, whatever it was. It was set up so that each service member could customize how and where they carry their equipment, their weight, and how it was evenly distributed. Within 24 hours of units being issued said equipment, standardized equipment loads were issued by the chains of command.
I know the 82nd was like that for sure.
Absolutely did not work for every soldier because every soldier's different.
Yeah. And that's a huge part of it. I remember getting my kit at DEVGRU, and I was like, the smallest size they had was a medium. And I brought it into this combat support class, right, which is like retired shooters basically running us. And I was like, the part of the class was them actually showing you how to put together your kit, which was helpful for me because all I did was strap on a bulletproof vest when I was like standing a quarterdeck watch or something, right? So nothing fit on the ship. Like, you get what you get. There's one small. Hopefully you find it. That's what a ship life was like.
Everybody wears size 9.
Yeah. Even the small was too big. And I remember the logistics officer being like, well, we don't cater to women here. And I was like, okay, but like, you buy stuff on a credit card. Can we order it? And they, he's just like, no, we're not doing that.
Can't or won't?
Won't.
Yeah.
Won't.
Yeah.
How helpful.
Yeah, exactly. But, luckily when I went back to the class and I was like, this is what they told me. The guys there were like, okay, go back to supply, order all these things, bring it back here, and we'll help you with your kit. So they basically there's like shoulder pads and stuff that you can put in there. So I was basically like wearing an extra layer of, padding in my kit, which was not fun, of course, but luckily I didn't have to wear it that much to begin with. But it would have been nice to have like the curved plate. It's nice.
Yeah. Well, if you could go back to that, even 19-year-old you still waiting to head off. For
Not taking that job on the Cleveland Tourism Board.
No.
Yeah. If you could go back to that, 18, 19-year-old you at their Navy recruiting office, knowing that ahead of you was some trouble in Hawaii, some time in a shipyard.
Yep.
Scraping off barnacles.
Yep.
Painting the decks. Targeting for special operators. Then, after 20 plus years, trying to find yourself. Find out who you really are. If you could go back to 18, 19-year-old you, would you do it all again?
Yes, I would. I absolutely would. I think the Navy, like, I'm thankful I joined the Navy, and I've always felt that way, even if at one point I was going to get out. Like, I was only re-enlisting, like, every 2 years, because I was like, I just want the option to cut ties if I need to, right? And I, like, don't regret any of that, but I always felt that, like, the Navy was so important to, like, getting me out of my shell and like building my confidence and like really, you know, coming into my own as like a professional and just someone in this world. You know, thank my parents that, you know, I think I was raised very well. They taught me to be responsible. You know, my mom, me and my sister grew up with my mom mostly. So like understood all of that and have always been a responsible like teenager and all of that. But like really being independent and feeling like I was really independent and forcing myself to be, and then putting myself in these challenging positions, and I think was really instrumental into just growing up as like an adult and not being shy. And well, I still am shy, but I'm a little bit more outspoken now. You know, not really being like scared. Like I'm not scared to try and do something. And I think I remember like, or I guess I should say, so scared that I won't do something. I'm usually always scared, but so scared that I won't do something. Yeah. I'll still always do it. But I think that it really helped me get out of that and built my confidence up in that regard.
Well, that's the old saying about courage is not the lack of fear. It's being able to push through fear, right? Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, we can't thank you enough for coming on and joining us, for traveling to come see us today.
No, this is great. It's actually kind of on my way, so it works out.
We'll edit that part out. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. This was awesome. I hope it was good.
This was fantastic, Candace.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fascinating career.
Yeah. Ended on Capitol Hill. Interesting.
Yeah. That is something that, you know, in retrospect, I wish that we had perhaps spoken a little bit more about. Is her time there on the Hill. I mean, she did the fellowship for a year, but then, you know, maybe what exactly her role was, and, you know, maybe some things that she worked on. But, I mean, going back to the beginning, getting out of Twinsburg.
The freak show.
Her words.
Her words.
I mean, obviously, she's come a long way.
Yeah.
She wanted to get out, and she wanted to go and do things, and, you know, not be stuck there in Ohio. And here, you know, 20 years later, freshly retired, barely 40, and all these experiences under her belt. I mean, amazing stuff.
It is, because both of us were brats and, you know, our fathers. It's interesting in the military, if you end up making a profession out of it, a career, and you retire at 20 plus years, you're still relatively young.
Yeah.
If you're blessed enough to make it all the way to the end.
Yeah.
But it does create a very weird dynamic where you're, you know, maybe barely middle-aged, but you're middle-aged and completely shifting gears to a different, well, you know, most people, complete gear shift to what they are used to.
Yeah. It's a major life change. You don't, you know, in a lot of cases, you know, and especially I think for people that come in, you know, 17, 18, 19 years old, your whole life has been, you have, after 20 years, you have spent more time in the military than anything else in your entire life.
Yeah.
And some people don't know who they are without that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's something that she alluded to as well, is,
you
know, trying to find out what she likes to do and hobbies, and
when she grows up.
When she grows up. Never grow up, Candace. Never grow up.
I couldn't if I wanted to.
But yeah, it's a tough transition to make. I do love that she kept on pushing for a new challenge, though.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to go through pretty much anything and everything, is find a challenge that you enjoy, achieve it, you know, master it to the best of your ability, and then go find something else.
Yeah.
And then, you know, keep pushing on. And that's pretty much what she did the whole way through.
Yeah. I certainly can relate to that kind of mindset, and that obviously she and I didn't have the same career trajectory, but that's exactly what my career was like too. And as far as keeping my interest by always having something on the horizon that I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So
outstanding stuff. from Twinsburg to San Diego shipyards, and
Not on food and water.
not on bread and water, and
Or bread and
not
water,
scrubbing
rather.
barnacles.
Yeah. Bread and water is what I meant to say.
The bread and water thing is hilarious.
Yes.
That is funny.
Yes.
All the way through to now being a Charlotte 49er.
That's right. UNC Charlotte.
Yeah. Awesome
So
stuff.
she's in North Carolina now, at least for the time being anyway, with family. So
The greatest of states, in my ever so humble opinion.
quite humble. So anything else on Miss Candace?
No, that's awesome.
Thanks for joining us, Candace.
Great stuff. And thank you for telling us about the Valkyrie project, too.
Yes.
That's good stuff.
Has she? I wonder if she's met any actual Valkyrie, and do they shriek at her all the time?
If you actually read the Norse sagas, the Valkyrie are not how they're projected in
Quite correct. Yes.
in comic books and movies.
Yes. Absolutely.
They are not that. They are not that at all.
We'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave that there. Okay.
Free fire.
Free fire area.
There are, and maybe there are still a few, but during the early 2000s, 2010s, there were a lot of Survivor shows. I mean, literally called Survivor. But then there was Naked and Afraid, and Bear Grylls, and Survivor Man. There was a whole rash of these shows, right?
Yeah.
And some of them were pretty entertaining. Survivor Man was really cool. But do you think that you could survive in a hostile environment, a hostile climate, all by yourself with nothing but your wits about you?
So, I have a particular set of skills. I've received a lot of training. Granted, a lot of that was years ago, on basic survivability. Most of that was not to be done in the worst and harshest types of climates and terrain. So kind of accounting for that, if I were dropped in, on an ice floe in my underpants, I probably wouldn't be able to do much with that. So the answer is always it depends.
Okay, well, what sort of environment? And I mean, let's say that you're going to be stranded there for a year, all by yourself, with nothing going in, not like a survivor kit or anything like that. What sort of environment do you think that you would thrive the most in? A desert, tropical island.
I was going to say a desert would probably be the easier of the worst choices, right? Yeah. Probably a desert.
Really?
Yeah.
You think you could survive these things there?
I think I would be less likely to succumb from some kind of crazy tropical disease. Mm-hmm. Because the tropics, you have a different set of problems there.
Oh, it's true.
You're not wanting for water or food per se, but everything's trying to kill you, which to a lesser extent is true in a desert. But
food sources are going to be scarce. Water sources is scarcer still.
But you're not going to die of beriberi, so.
I mean, I guess.
And then some of your, because we're talking about the hotter climates, the colder climates. Yeah, I mean, once you get into the permafrost up there, which are still technically considered deserts, by the way. There is. Yeah. Again, I mean, choosing the least worst of the options, I'd probably go desert.
No. Just drop me off in the middle of, a deciduous forest somewhere.
Well, I didn't think that was an option because that's not a harsh climate.
Is it not?
A deciduous forest?
You're by yourself.
I thought we were talking,
a tropical island isn't, the forgotten island in the Caribbean isn't a harsh environment necessarily.
Just dropping you off in a temperate forest, yeah, that would be the best. That would be the best way to go. Yeah. Yes.
You drop me off in some permafrost, and I am seriously considering taking my own life.
Maybe I misunderstood the intent
in a cold environment, and I have had plenty of cold weather training and exposure. No.
Perhaps I misunderstood the intent of your question. Yeah, I would take a temperate forest over any other 10 times out of 10.
What do you think would be the hardest difficulty to overcome in any environment like that?
One of the first things they teach you in survival school is if you don't have enough drinkable water, like water is priority over food. Mm-hmm. And there could be instances where you have food but not enough water. Mm-hmm. And in that situation, you were told in survival school to not eat the food because it will require...
It'll make thirst.
It'll make you...
And your body to digest it and all that stuff.
Needs the water, and you'll basically sap your water reserves faster. So I imagine being in a situation where you have food and not water, and you're feel like you're starving to death, but you're choosing to not eat the food. Yeah. That would be really, really horrible.
Yeah. I think that if you're going to be stranded there for a year, I think eventually everybody starts talking to volleyballs.
Wilson.
I don't think that would be. I don't think that would be a problem that I would necessarily. I think I could go longer without the companionship or social interaction aspect than probably most people.
Yeah.
Based on my already very low opinion of people in general, not persons in specific. Maintaining a fire would be difficult because you need it not just for heat, cooking,
food preparation.
Fire is also helpful in the creation of other tools and equipment that you may need. But you're by yourself, and you are going to have to leave your sheltered area eventually. That could be tricky because you can't just stack up a bunch of your wood that is probably wet because you've just cut it down. It's green wood. It's not going to catch fire.
You'd have to work out
easily.
a system.
Yeah, that would be a major issue.
Well, that's something we moderns very much take for granted is just
kiln dried wood.
Amenities.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You could just walk into your air-conditioned house and flip a light switch on, and then walk over to your electric or gas-powered stove, and then have heat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The when you're in a survival situation, basically food gathering and preparation becomes a full-time job.
Yeah.
From the time you're awake to the time you're asleep.
Yeah.
You're doing something towards that end.
Yeah. And as much of a carnivore as I am, there is going to be a need for a more balanced diet for vitamins and nutrients that you're not going to find in whatever elk you take down. And there are some poisonous berries out there that look just like edible berries. There are some deadly poisonous mushrooms that look just like mushrooms that you can eat.
You really got to stay away from the Marion berries too.
That is...
Sit me up.
Well, if you've got some crack on you.
Sit me up. I'm going to delete the first word of that sentence.
No. I don't know. I was watching like an old Survivor Man clip. Because, I mean, he stopped doing that show because it almost killed him repeatedly. But it just got me thinking about it. Could I survive? And how long could I survive?
Yeah.
I think I could do a year. In most environments, not in a cold environment. I probably wouldn't make it a week in a cold environment.
If you had to escape the gulag.
I don't know how some of those people live like in Siberia.
Well, I mean,
but
a lot of the gulag escapees ended up not surviving, but they chose to. I could certainly understand being placed in a situation where I'm going to die in a gulag, or I can die out there trying. I'll take option B. I understand that.
Yeah, it's better to live on your feet than die on your knees.
Pretty much.
Well, on that cheery note.
We found a way to work the gulags.
Gulags, Marionberry, and collecting rainwater.
Gulags and Marionberry. There's got to be some kind of tie in there. We're on all the social medias. Please give us a like, share, and a follow.
Yeah. Give us a rating, a review, a like. Do all the things. You can go over to our website if you want to get us a nifty Tracer Burnout.
There's a link
T-shirt.
to our merch shop.
Yeah, there's hats and shirts and workout gear, and there's some good stuff over
Aprons.
there. Even an apron. Yeah,
Perfect.
mugs. Yeah, all that good stuff.
So it supports and helps the show, so we appreciate it.
Recommend the show to friends, family, loved ones. If you've got somebody in your family that is a veteran and you'd like to hear more of their story, or maybe they'd like to sit down with us, you can always reach out to Roger on all the social media.
I thought you were going to say if you have a friend. It's like,
or on the tracerburnout.com website, there is a contact us link. So
it makes its way to us. So appreciate you being with us today, and remember, your service matters.
I had like the nicest day in November. It was literally like cold and windy the day before, like 80 degrees, no humidity on our retirement, and then the next day it was like cold and raining again. So
the clouds, the clouds parted, and the angels sang, and the one beam of light came
really
down.
Lucked out. The universe was watching out. So
with the Mid-Atlantic, you never know.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, especially because, it was November. It was like the last weekend that they were going to keep the patio open for me.
Like here in November, it could be sunny and 60 one day and then raining and 20 the next day.